City of Titusville Council meeting of April 24th, 2018 at 6:30 p.m. We have a quorum. I'll call this meeting to order. Is there any ministers out there that would like to say the invocation? Not seeing any. Please join me in a moment of silence. Please join me in the pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Clerk, would you please read the rules for speaking to council?
Yes, sir. Individuals wishing to speak on public and non-public hearing agenda items must complete a sign-up card and present it to the clerk prior to the item being introduced. Those wishing to speak on quasi-judicial public hearings must complete a sign-up card and sign the oath. Individuals wishing to speak on non-agenda items may do so under petitions from the public present. This opportunity is offered twice in the meeting, and individuals may speak at either the first or second petitions, but not both. No sign-up card is required. Sign-up and oath cards are located on the table in the back of the council chamber. Citizens shall not comment on any issue more than once during the meeting. All comments except petitions and requests must address the pending issue, and citizens will be given 3 minutes to speak.
Thank you, Clerk. We have 2 minutes to approve, April 10th and March 6th. I'll take a motion on that.
Move to approve the minutes of the regular City Council meeting on April 10th, 2018, and special City Council meeting on March 6th, 2018.
Do I have a second? Second. I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say yes. Yes. Any opposed? Same sign. Passes unanimously. Special recognitions and presentations. I don't think we have anything left from the last meeting. So we'll go to the next one, boards and commissions.
Yes, sir. Item 6A, per resolution number 1-2017, the Student Advisory Council must annually provide a report to the City Council during the month of April.
Bless you. That
discusses issues in which presents solutions. The Student Advisory Council will also provide recommendations to their 2018-2019 successors. So I think we're ready for your presentation.
No wonder you stayed. Now I get it.
Hi, my name is Caleb Phillips. I'd like to introduce our 2017-2018 report. We'd like to extend our gratitude and expression of thanks to the entire City Council for your continued support throughout the year among the different tasks we've undertaken. As well as I'd like to introduce the several members that we have, Co-Chair Jason Garrett, who will be serving as a senior, member Emma Milbert as a junior, and member Josiah Johnson as a sophomore. We do not currently have a freshman seat from Astronaut High School. From Titusville High School, I'd like to introduce Spencer Burnett as our senior, member Diamond Washington as our junior, Isabel Amanana as our sophomore, and myself as a freshman. From the North Brevard Homeschool Association, I'd like to introduce Co-Chair Anna Backus, who is our senior, member Ashley Mawazi as our junior, our vice chair Simon Ricard as our sophomore, and member Isaac Gutman as our freshman. Again, we'd like to extend our thanks and gratitude to the entire City Council as we begin to move into our report, which will be highlighting per resolution 1-2017. The 4 goals we had, which will hold a leadership seminar, follow up on a social media action plan from the 2016 leadership seminar, as well as participate in the 2017 Florida League of Cities Youth Municipal Video Competition, as well as the Drink Drive Diet website, information pertaining to that website. So I'd like to pass it off onto the first item in our report.
Please do.
Hello, my name is Jason Garrett, and the Student Advisory Council Leadership Seminar is held every other year. This year it was held on Friday, March 2nd, 2018 at the Parish Medical Center from 8 to 3:15. The guests and students that attended are from Astronaut High School, Titusville High School, and the North Brevard Homeschool Association. The seminar started with a light breakfast followed by an icebreaker game where the students shared fun facts about themselves to their peers. Next, the students listened to a speech from guest speaker Sheriff Wayne Ivey. He spoke about the leadership and the role it played in getting his position and how he manages the Brevard County Sheriff's Department. Afterwards, our guests worked on a project in small groups, making legitimate designs for a Titusville Civic Center. Their challenges were using good use of the space they were given and following all the correct city codes. Next, the students were released to eat lunch provided by Parish Medical Center, and after, presented their designs for the civic centers to the rest of the other groups. During the remainder of the afternoon, our guests enjoyed a speech from City Council member Mr. Dan Diesel. Mr. Diesel had the guests play a leadership game and spoke of the effects of leadership and how it can be achieved. Lastly, the students participated in a raffle and were released for the rest of the day. The Student Advisory Council did a fantastic job making a well-constructed seminar that was successfully achieved. This program should be continued to be executed every other year. Our recommendations are to hold the leadership seminar during the 2019 and 2020 Student Advisory Council. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Isabella Almagnana. I will be talking about the follow-up on the social media action plan from the 2016 leadership seminar. The Student Advisory Council took the substance abuse project created by youth at the 2016 leadership seminar, and in September 2017, we implemented a Facebook page and a 6-month social media campaign called Titusville Student Advisory Council Events. The purpose of our campaign is to notify youth and the community about special events and activities taking place at different businesses. As a prerequisite to launching our project, our council received approval from the city manager to launch a 6-month social media campaign. We also partnered with the city and its social media records vendor Page Freezer to ensure compliance with all relevant public records policies and laws. City staff assisted us with posting information and managing the public records for the project. Once our Facebook page was implemented to the onset of the 2017-2018 term, our council members were invited to continuously notify city staff about events that might interest our peers and all youth in the community. The police and fire department assisted us by sharing our posts to boost our views. Some examples of our posts that we posted in the past year were the St. Teresa's School Fair, rivalry games between Astronaut and Titusville High School sports teams, and other games, zoo events and science nights, events hosted by the Brevard Parks and Recreation Department, talent show hosted by Titusville High School. Although our 6-month campaign and project ended on February 28, 2018, we would like to continue to encourage our community's youth to make positive choices for their well-being and future success. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi,
Hi.
I'm Simon Rescar, and I'm going to be talking about the Florida League of Cities Youth Video Competition. So this year our council decided to take on the task of participating in the Florida League of Cities Youth Video Competition. And the topic of the video was, "This is our city and we're proud of it." Our video won 5th place in the competition and we won $100. You can find the video on YouTube or under the Titusville Student City Council page on Titusville's website. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Caleb Phillips. I'd like to talk about Drink, Drive, Die. This was 11 years ago. The Student Advisory Council started a campaign to make youth aware of catastrophic events of drinking and driving. The efforts put forth by our council of anti-drinking and driving theme has been relevant over the years. In 2006 and 2007, the original idea behind this was launched after local teens were killed in an alcohol-related crash. In 2008 and 2009, we completed a Last Dance, an anti-drinking prom video that was released to 67 school boards in the state of Florida, the state of Florida Attorney's Office, local junior and high schools, the Titusville Police and Fire Department, and local television stations and local organizers to target teenage drinking and substance abuse. In 2010 and 2011, the idea of a website became relevant and Drink, Drive, Die was beginning to be constructed. In February 2011, we bought the rights to the domain name through GoDaddy.com. And in 2012, the leadership seminar we held was on anti-drinking and driving. Through 2013, 14, and 15, we continued to add to the appearance and content of drinkdrive.com, as well as obtaining a personal story recommended by a mother who lost her son in a drinking and driving accident. In 2015-2016, the community relations staffs assisted our council by providing the website traffic counts through Google Analytics. Unfortunately, the traffic was very low, 10 visitors over many, many months, including staff and members of our council viewing the page. For this reason, the 2015-2016 SAC recommended to explore purchasing the redirect services and internet to attract more viewers to drinkdrive.com. At the onset of the 2016-2017 term, our council worked with GoDaddy.com, and we learned that we did not need to purchase redirect services. Instead, the company could forward the public to our webpage for free. At the same time, however, our company questioned the effectiveness of the website and whether to continue the project. Consequently, our council decided that they need additional time and consider these matters tabled discussion until March 2017. In March 2017, our council tabled the discussion on the same matter to December of 2017, which provided our council 2 months to evaluate the project before the rights to the domain name expired in February of 2018. During the December of 2017, our council discussed the effectiveness and contributions to the websites that we've been making. We also discussed the priorities of this websites. After discussion, we decided to continue the project as an influence. During this meeting, we appointed a webmaster, Caleb Phillips, to create the changes and continually working on the website. Our council will be creating new ideas as well as content to post. As of this time, there are no site statistics for the webpage. We will continue to update the website and provide its appearance to the 2018-2019 term. The recommendations we provide are continue to create and add new content, as well as approve the appearance to the webpage during the 2018-2019 term. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Ashley Melizzi, and I will be presenting the summary. Per Resolution Number 1-2017, the Student Advisory Council will discuss and prioritize 2 to 4 concerns or issues each year. For this reason, this year's Student Advisory Council suggested the following goals be forwarded to the 2018-2019 Student Advisory Council for their consideration and implementation. The first goal will be to hold a Mock City Council meeting. The second, drinkdrive.com webpage. And the last one will be to partner with local high schools on a community service project, which will be a local food drive competition. Once again, we wish to thank everyone for his or her support during the 2017-2018 term. We have had a very busy year and wish the next year's council much success. Thank you.
Thank you. I guess that's it, right? Very good. Thank you. And again, congratulations on your award that you got during the first meeting for the film. Very good. Next item is Student Advisory Council scholarships.
Yes, sir. If I could get council to accept the report as presented.
Okay.
That way we can get it as part of the record.
Do I have a motion?
Move to accept the report as presented by the Student Advisory Council.
Have a second? Second. The motion is second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, like sign, passes unanimously.
Yes, sir, and I'd like to go ahead and offer a round of applause for this great effort.
Absolutely. Now, Student Advisory Council scholarships.
Yes, sir. In accordance with the policy at the 13 March 2018 City Council meeting, Council approved an expenditure not to exceed $2,250 and directed staff to forward pending disbursements forms to the City Manager and Finance Department for preparation of scholarship checks. In the 2017-18 year, 3 seniors qualified for a scholarship in accordance with the scholarship policy guidelines. The recipients of this year's scholarship include Jason Garrett of Astronaut High School, a $250 award, Anna Backus of North Brevard Homeschool Association, $1,000 award, and Spencer Burnett of Titusville High School, a $1,000 award. Congratulations, seniors. And Mayor, I've got the checks here if you'd like to meet those recipients down at the podium. We can get a picture, and then it really happened.
Absolutely. girly name. And we're going to get some pictures. Very good. And again, thank you and congratulations. Not enough. Item C, sir.
Yes, sir.
Advisory Council.
Per Resolution 1-2017, the Titusville Student Advisory Council is comprised of the following: 4 students appointed from Astronaut High School, 4 students appointed from Titusville High School, and 4 students appointed from North Brevard Homeschool Association. Each high school will select 1 student in each academic grade level, 9, 10, 11th, and 12th grades. It is recommended that the proposed slate of students be appointed to the 2018-2019 Student Advisory Council as nominated by their prospective schools in accordance with Resolution 1-2017. From Astronaut High School, 9th grade, Emily Ellis, 10th grade, Taylor Batson, 11th grade, Joshua Johnson, and 12th grade is Emma Milbert. From the North Brevard Homeschool Association, 9th grade, Ben Hamilton, 10th grade, Isaac Gutman, 11th grade, Simon Reskar, and 12th grade, Ashley Malazzi. And from Titusville High School, 9th grade, Jacob Phillips, 10th grade, Caleb Phillips, 11th grade, Isabella Almenia, and 12th grade, Diamond Washington.
Okay, do I have a motion to appoint this slate of members?
I'd move to appoint the proposed slate of members, of students as members of the 2018-2019 Student Advisory Council.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, like sign. Passes unanimously. Item 6D, North Brevard Commission on Parks and Rec.
Yes, sir. We have Mr. Jeff Davis and his team, which will present the North Brevard Commission on Park and Recreation semi-annual report.
Good evening, Mr. Davis. How are you?
Good evening, City Council. Good evening, Mr. Walt Johnson. How you doing, sir?
It's fine, sir. We're friends, in case you haven't figured it out.
Very, very good friends. What are you guys doing? Y'all can't leave me a bad This is the introduction of my new team, and that's why I wanted these guys to come and actually introduce themselves to you. The amount of work that goes into what we do here in North Area Parks is over. It's a headache sometimes. It really is. It's a lot of work. I get to share that load now with some very, very auspicious individuals. These guys, not suspicious, auspicious. These individuals are good people, been vetted. I'm going to have them introduce themselves to you before we actually go into our report. But I brought them because they're brand new members of our North Area team. They bring a great deal of wealth to our team.
Great. Thank you, sir.
My name is Tex Lodeholtz. I'm the maintenance superintendent for North Area Parks.
Welcome, sir.
Thank you.
My name is Roger Waddell, and I am the program coordinator for all special events and summer camp in the North area.
And welcome to you.
My name is Rob Salazar, Recreation Superintendent, North Area Parks and Recreation.
I spoke to you yesterday.
You did.
Right?
Okay, we've actually emailed you the actual presentation. We actually had sent over the PowerPoint presentation. Rob put this together, so I'm going to have Rob actually come and actually do the presentation, and we'll pay any questions after that.
Sure. I don't have a button. How do I?
It's right over there.
Okay.
You have to turn it on. Maybe it is on.
Let's see. It
Yep.
is on.
There you go.
Okay. Well, we've went through introductions, so we'll just jump right in. Basically, the semi-annual report we sent over gave a overview of what we have been doing for the last 6 months. Hopefully, you guys have been able to take a glance at it, just see the programs and stuff we've got going on. I've got a very quick rundown. I didn't want to keep you guys for hours and hours on end of what we've been doing. Just a quick example, Parks and Rec night at the Orlando Magic game. We went over in February when they played the Bucks. We took about 45 kids over. We had all of our community centers have kids, about 13 kids per center, and so we had a good group go over, and they gave us a reduced rate for tickets, and the kids had a great time, so that was really good. We're hoping to partner with them in the future moving forward as well. Another trip we took recently was the school board they had a teacher in service on March 16th, so we went down to Lion Country Safari with Kyler Community Center. They took 2 vans of kids down there they worked on different STEM projects. They got to go on the safari itself, feed the animals, and just had a unique experience that they don't get to have every day here in Titusville. So that was something really cool that they got positive feedback from. We've been doing our Movies in the Park program. Roger here, he's going to be intricate in that program moving forward. We've had, since our last report, about 6 months ago, we had six months of movies. 2 of them were canceled due to weather. The movies we did get to show, Star Wars, Secret Life of Pets, Addams Family, and Elf. We've had a grab bag of success with our movies. Sandpoint can be sometimes a little difficult to get people out to stay for the whole movie because of the weather. It can be right by the water, it gets windy. So that's something we hope to discuss with you guys about potentially changing the venue or the frequency of the movie. We found success with the movies when we pair it with an event. Our Star Wars movie, for example, we did in March, and we combined it with an adult egg hunt, adult flashlight egg hunt. So and that was really well attended. We had about 100 people out there. We had pizza. We had DJ Roger on the 1s and 2s. So that was really successful. So we're trying to incorporate more stuff like that to the Titusville area to make the movie more of an event that people are going to be attracted to attend. Previously, we had worked on putting a movie schedule together, so that was some of the movies we were thinking about showing. Jumanji is a new release, so that would be a popular one, and then some summertime classics like The Sandlot, The Goonies, Lion King, Toy Story, stuff people are going to want to bring their kids out to come out to the park. This is a really big thing we're starting recently, Gaining Appreciation by Adjusting Perspectives, acronym of GAP. And what GAP is, it's a partnership with Titusville High and TPD. And we go into the school. We went into Titusville High in March, and it's something we're going to do recurring monthly. And we have a group of teens that we sit down and we have an open forum of discussion with the recreation staff, the police officers, and the youth, just to open the lines of communication and kind of get everybody on the same page, I guess. The youth get a chance to speak their minds, and the officers get to share their life experience and why they joined the force or why this is important to them. And there's a moderator, and she would pose questions, and we would get to have just that dialogue that really helps build that relationship. And what we've got coming up, summer camp, going to be huge, starting at the end of May. But before we get to summer camp, May 19th at Sandpoint, we've got Touch a Truck. And what Touch a Truck is we've got all kinds of vehicles coming in. We've got EMS vehicles, police vehicles, military, fire engines. We've got a helicopter landing. All kinds of different vehicles come in, and we get the community an opportunity to experience the vehicles. They get to touch the vehicles, sit in the vehicles, honk the horns, do stuff they may not get to do every day with the trucks they see around town. So we've put that on social media, on our Facebook page. We have over 500 people interested in it. So we're hoping it's going to be a really big event. We recently partnered with Mike Erdman Toyota to sponsor the event. So we've got, it's really getting some traction out there in the community. So we're hoping that's a really big success for us here. And that's our presentation.
Council, any questions? Go right ahead.
Beat him. Rob.
Yes.
We were talking about the movies in the park and how sometimes there's low attendance unless there's an event before that. Do you need us to direct you that you need to use your own discretion and when to show the movies.
Sure. Well, I don't think we necessarily need we want to be on the same page of.
Yeah.
We had agreed previously to doing them at Sandpoint monthly, and we wanted to hear from you guys, if you'd be okay with us potentially going to Fox Lake or a different venue within Titusville to host our movies in the park and pair it with one of our events that we've got going on, something like that, and with maybe every 2 months frequency or something along those lines.
That would make sense to me. You guys are the experts. You know, we can say this is what we'd love to see, but obviously things don't always happen as fast as we would like to see it happen. So I don't have a problem with it. I don't know about the rest of council, but I don't have a particular problem with it.
Anybody? No.
I guess that's your answer.
Cool. That makes sense to us.
Okay.
We can work with that. So, any other questions?
Any other questions? Yes. Member Diesel.
Mr. Davis, I know that we have spoken in the past concerning facility needs in our area. And I know that we have gotten all we can out of Gibson, and we will continue to do that. And I appreciate the support you have given myself and you. We kind of became a team there trying to get some people some facilities.
Yes, sir.
So my first question is there anything on the Parks and Rec plan, 5-year plan, 10-year plan, or can we get one on there to address some of the recreational facility needs? Let me give you an example. I met with several people recently, and for the most part, so have you, and I know that. So I'm not trying to say I'm out there doing this, because I know that most of the time we see a lot of these people at the Parks and Rec board meetings, and PAL most recently. Met with Victory Sports. They're looking for gyms and places to put their programs, and I'm not asking you to let them use your facilities. You have your own programs. I get that, but I'm kind of expressing the need we have for facilities in our area. Boys and Girls Club is certainly, and maybe they're making some ground, but it's certainly been a battle to try to find a place for Boys and Girls Club. North Brevard Wrestling Association is near and dear to our heart, and we had a hard time finding them a place to go and to, no, I'll go another direction. I'll stay away from that. USSSA down there in Vieira as the facility AP at Titusville High School. I probably get a call, I don't want to say weekly by any means, but on a pretty regular basis, especially when we come to summer basketball tournaments. They've got a great facility down there, but they don't have any indoor facility to play basketball or volleyball. So they're counting on the high schools. I know you have talked to them. I just met yesterday with Hawks football regarding a possible area over at the marina, and I will speak to you about that before I go, out here in the world. Mm-hmm. So the point I'm making is, we clearly in Titusville are behind, in my mind, in facilities compared to the rest of the county. And as you heard me address PAL, we used to have a tremendous PAL. Of course, they use the Gibson Gym. But when I addressed PAL the other day, the concern I had was I asked her if she had programs going in the Titusville or North Brevard area right now, and we don't. But they do in the south. And then I, perhaps strategically, asked where their offices are, and they're on Sarno Road. Mm-hmm. And I replied, as you may recall, I would like to hear someday you have an office on Park Avenue in Titusville. And it just seems like it goes that way over and over again. PAL's going to start in the south and see if they can't come north. USSSA is down in Vieira, and maybe we'll get something up here. So I say to you, after all of that, is there any thought in you personally and in the program of a 5-year or 10-year plan to increase the facilities in North Brevard?
Is that a trick question there?
That's my point.
No, we have a plan, and Dan knows me very, very well. He knows how committed I am to this community and to serving.
I do, make that clear. I do.
And there are always challenges. We're trying to figure out how to move. We're slowly moving in that process of getting that place refurbished to get it built up where we can maximize the use of that facility. I spoke to about different opportunities, different things that people want to try. A phone call came in today about line dancing that was over at the senior center. Line dancing is everywhere. But they want to play. Robert and I
coming in
there. There's an ear around for another 7, so I got to at least think until 7 years down the road, so to be able to keep up with everything. But we are on top of it, and with my team, these guys are like I said, they gave you a very, very modest introduction. They bring a great deal of knowledge in helping us and helping. Take North Area Parks operations in another manner. Rob, this toucher truck thing, that was something that originated down in South County that was very, very popular. He came on, got on board, and got it started. The introduction of the GAP program was a request, I think, made by the City Council. What were we doing as far as trying to reduce teen crime? The GAP program is a platform that we can possibly help reduce some of the teen crime that we have here in the city of Titusville and Mims. We've already partnered with the Sheriff's Department, PAL. That was already done. Her meeting that you were a part of, we'd already signed the contract. We do the contract differently here. I'm the contract person for the entire county for Sheriff's Department's PAL. So although their office is in Palm Bay, their heart is in Titusville. So they'll be up here doing a lot of stuff in Titusville. I plan to see them over the summer and have a lot of these programs incorporated in our community centers over the summer. So
and two things that I'll be done. One is a volunteer thing. Actually, originally started when I called Jeff because at Titusville High School, I truly didn't feel we had enough black male role models, and I knew Parks and Rec had some outstanding individuals in that area. Yeah. And Tommy Lee Myers has been down, and Brian Campbell's been down, and Jeff's been down, and that started the roller. And I believe, Jeff, you came up with the idea after that. Well, let's incorporate the police. And so you guys have said yes to whatever we've asked you to do. I want to make that clear. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to end it with all the needs that we have. I do kind of want to at least throw out there something I haven't heard in a while, and that's the thought or the possibility of the indoor sports arena that's been tossed around over there by the old Big Apple Shopping Center. Not getting out there and saying, here we go. I'm just simply saying that I can see the need down the road, and we're not going to, nickel and dime it and meet the need. So
that decision that is a much higher pay grade than mine. Yeah.
Mine too, but I thought I'd throw it out there.
I hope it does come.
I can tell you that's still being, as you said, tossed around, I guess. But so it's not over, but it's not done by any means. Okay. Member Stokel.
Yep. Thank you, guys, and very nice to meet some of you that I've not met before. Great presentation. I am very excited about the GAP program starting. I know that was something that I was really passionate about. I think we all mentioned last year. Another thing, I appreciate the report. I wanted to know if you guys you mentioned low enrollment on some of the movie nights. Do you guys happen to have numbers for your events and then corresponding expenses? Sure. Potentially that we could look at and analyze and maybe.
I don't have it tonight.
That's okay. That's okay. I'd be interested in seeing that. And then with that being said, as we may come up with suggestions or ideas, hurricane damage, what does that look like for you? Or do you guys have any costs as we are like, oh, why don't you try this? How are you handling that, I guess, right now?
We got a lot.
Briefly, as of yesterday, actually, I toured with St. Johns River Water Management District, and we toured the riverfront parks, and those that can be either repaired or replaced in their existing footprint. We're right now in a process of prioritizing if they're going to fall into the emergency order or if they're going to fall into a permit exemption. So that'll determine how much engineering, if there's going to be. Some of them will be able to do within the next few weeks. Some of them will take a lot of contract work, and then some of the minor ones we're going to do in-house. So you should see some action with those moving forward in the next few weeks.
I wanted to touch on one thing. If you have ideas or something you'd like to see, Roger and myself, we're absolutely receptive to hearing from you guys about programs or events or anything along those lines that you may have input on. So our door is definitely open. So we'd love to meet with you if you have input.
Okay. Vice Mayor.
Thank you. And Mr. Davis, thank you. Your leadership at Parks and Rec is noted for the efforts that you're putting into that.
Thank you.
Yeah. Just a couple, I think, questions, larger in scope and answers maybe at a different time or now. I think to piggyback off Member Stokel's question, I believe that one of the things that would be very beneficial as far as partnership in conjunction with the city to serve the citizens who live in Titusville on a 5-year outlay plan on what will our parks look like in 5 years. And the reason I say that is because for all of the efforts, and to Parks and Rec's, everything that I think we've been throwing out in the past year or so, I'm hearing feedback of we're doing, which is fantastic. Being said, at the end of it, a lot of citizens, all they may know is the park's closed. And they may call Parks and Rec, they may call us, they just know the park's closed and they live in Titusville, right? So if there is whatever the timeline, I say 5 years, I don't know. Whatever was there previously doesn't necessarily mean it's coming back out of funding. So what I couldn't say is that, as an example, if a pier got totally wiped out, that if there is an expectation from our citizens, a pier is going back in, my hope would be able to communicate that, no, it's not, and this is why, or this is what it will look like at a finished product. And I don't know at this point regarding our parks if there's been damage because of Irma, that what is the final project going to look like at the end of the restoration, and how long will that take? And as a city, I think it would be helpful to be able to tell our constituents that.
And I'm going to give you my interpretation,
Please.
a layman's interpretation of the whole process, because this is a new process to me. I'm actually evaluating the hurricane assessments. I come from a field of law enforcement, so when you say you're going to mitigate something, you're going to reduce it. So when they talked about mitigating in some of these locations, it didn't make sense to me because it just didn't line up with my logic. But the purpose of mitigating is to build something better so you reduce the problems that you're going to have with it later. So you have to build it better. Insurance policies are not written like that. They're only going to pay what to replace apple for apple, not apple for oranges. Even though it makes better sense if you have an orange in that scenario, they're not going to place it in that discretion. So that delays the process. Mm-hmm. And I'm comfortable in explaining this to you because I get a million phone calls about the Port St. John boat ramp. And the explanation I give them, because you have so many government agencies that are involved. You got environmental protection because anything that goes into that lagoon, any structures that go in that lagoon, you have to get those folks permission to do anything. The Army Corps of Engineers, we have FDOT. Multiple government agencies are involved. They all have a great idea what they want to do, but getting everybody on the same playing field to move forward has always been a difficult task at this point. But we're in a better place now where I think we've gotten all those primary things taken care of. Everybody knows what we need to do. If I had to guess on a time frame moving forward to try to say we're going to have some of these repairs back the way that they were, I would probably give it a year.
Year on some of them, some of the smaller scale ones.
Yeah.
Again, it depends on engineering and how much will be required on some of those. If we're talking about parking areas, for example, Rotary Riverfront, that's a different type of repair and restoration than, say, Manzo Park.
And that to that point, to be fair to Parks and Rec, I think that being able to communicate that to our citizens, because some of it is really complex stuff, and to your point, you don't want to build something, put a lot of money into it to get wiped out on the next hurricane. Absolutely. And so if there is, we work with comprehensive plans, we work with strategic plans and so forth and so on, being able to have a crack at that in conjunction with you as you're going through it, mm-hmm. I think would be tremendously helpful, just so that we can tell, again, because the citizens aren't, they're going to call us and say, about that happened. I would be interested to see if the school board had any resources, could be a part of that discussion. And here's why. That property has gone in between school board, Parks and Rec, city, Crown, right? Like we're all service to it in one way or another. And if nothing more than a historical location, there's value to that. And so I believe that I think that what takes place in the Gibson Center is a lot of learning, and I think there's a lot of benefit to what can take place there. And I would be very interested to see if the school board, because what I think is going to happen very shortly is that where the capital funds and expenditures for North Brevard have been divided up now from a third and shifted to the center for us to share, I have a pretty good feeling that when we talk about new schools and things like that for capital improvements, that other parts of the county are going to get new buildings and we're not. In conjunction with this, where they may not be able to build a school, they may be able to add capacity to a very large gymnasium complex for the service of students in the area. And I would be interested to see maybe that conversation take place in conjunction, possibly seeing if we could reach out to the Community Foundation for Brevard, and between all entities that there may be able to leverage a different way of looking at it for the purpose of who we serve. So thank you for that.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Davis, I think you've been doing an excellent job.
Thank you.
Under
Thank
some really tough circumstances, and I'm glad to see that you have.
It's a dream team.
Help to do it. As you know, I live next to a park, and people ask me about it all the time. And my take on it at this point, and I think it was mentioned, is we don't have the money to really. That park is a disaster because it was a beautiful park with bricks and all kinds of things there that were just destroyed, as well as the seawall. And we're still waiting for money from Matthew, and we haven't even seen any the end of the start of the funding from Irma. So I know there's limitations you can do on it. And I just want to commend you for what you have done, and putting fences in areas that could be dangerous, and doing what you can to keep them looking as nice as you can. And just typical of the things you run into happened yesterday. That's where I spoke to Bob. In that you put that chain link fence up on the front part, on the shoreline part of Spaceview Park, and to keep people from getting hurt, because it is a disaster up there with large concrete blocks and small bricks that are all over the place, and it's going to take quite a bit to put it back together, certainly, and the money isn't there. But we also have some members of the public that make it a little worse. Yeah. Because they want to go fishing or whatever, that they actually, and this is a case in point, tore down part of that chain link fence the night before I spoke to you, and then left it that way. And I did happen, as I was walking my dog, I did happen to see people, the gentlemen leave, several gentlemen, 4 actually, leaving, and they had all their fishing equipment, but I had no way of doing anything, because I really didn't see them do it, but I'm convinced they were the ones who did it. And then the next morning, there was a couple out there when I went out to walk my dog that went through the hole in the fence and was going out on the dock, which is a disaster and terribly dangerous. And I asked them to come back, and had an interesting answer for me, though, that they said, "Oh, I'm sorry, we haven't lived here very long. And now there's fences with signs that say no trespassing." What that has to do with living here very long, I don't know. But I said, yeah, well, how about coming over here? We don't want you to get hurt. But the point is that not only is it bad, but sometimes people make it worse. And you got on it right away, and I appreciate that, so nobody did get hurt. And I really appreciate the job you've been doing, and do a good job with them, guys, okay? Thank you. Any other questions from anyone, or do you have anything more you'd like to say, sir?
No, sir. Thank you for allowing us to serve. We're going to give it our best.
Okay. I'll take a motion to accept the report.
Move to accept the report of the North Brevard Parks and Rec Commissions as reported.
Do I have a second? Second. I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Not hearing any. All those in favor say yes. Yes. Any opposed, like sign. Passes unanimously. Have a good evening.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you.
Petitions and requests from the public present. Anybody like to speak? Sir, if you'd like to sit over there, you're
Yes, I
certainly
will.
welcome to do that. Name for the record, please.
Joe Richardson, member of the Code Enforcement Board. I'd like to ask for an additional 2 minutes due to the stroke I had 5 years ago, as I tend to speak slowly and may slur my words. Could I ask for an additional 2 minutes?
Yes, sir, because of your situation, I think that they would be glad to do that.
Motion if we need a
Have
motion.
a motion? Yes, we do.
Second.
And a second. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
You have your extra 2 minutes, sir.
41 years ago, I was elected at the ripe old age of 21 to the Titusville City Council. I sat in your seat, Member Diesel. It seems to fit you better than it did me. In that 41 years, a lot has changed with Titusville, as with me. To be very honest with you, I've never recalled considering anything like this proposed dissolving of the Code Enforcement Board. For over 32 years, this board has worked well. As the old saying goes, if it's not broke, don't fix it. And I would have to say, because of this item, it was never discussed before the board. Chairman Bell and Member Ozon are here to verify that it was never discussed with us. We had our meeting 2 weeks ago, and then a week later we were hit by Rick Rogers' resignation to go surfing full-time in Costa Rica.
Sir, can you do me a favor? I forgot to ask you to give your name for the record. So.
I did.
Did
Joe
you?
Richardson.
Okay. I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
And we found this thing, it's like it came out of the blue to the Code Enforcement Board members. I have read the article included in your packet from the Florida Bar Journal. It was written by Karen Consalo, I think her name is, who serves as a Code Enforcement Special Magistrate in the town of Oakland, which is in Orange County. In the article, she points out the difficulty in finding qualified members to serve on the Code Board. She also points out that some of those members may come to the board with predetermined loyalties, vendettas, or biases that prohibit them from affording due process necessary to quasi-judicial process. Oh, and by the way, Titusville is approximately 20 times larger than Oakland. According to the 2010 census, it had only 2,500 residents. It's about the size of Lestita or Hickory Hills, the entire town. We have not experienced such difficulties with our board. As Harry Lee used to say on that back wall, let us disagree without becoming disagreeable. We have a group of 9 volunteer members, 7 regular members, and 2 alternates with a diverse background and varied experiences. We may disagree on any particular case, but we move on to the next item on the agenda. So I ask the council to not approve this advisability request and instead direct the city attorney and his staff to begin the immediate search for a replacement for Attorney Rick Rogers, who has decided after 32 years of loyal service to retire. Thank you.
Mayor, I just want to remind council, this is actually an agenda item.
Yes, sir.
Under consent for item E.
That's
So if
true.
anybody else wants to speak on that and you have cards, everybody can speak. You don't have to do it at petitions. Petitions and requests is for non-agenda items, but when that item comes, if you put in a card, we're going to pull it and have a separate discussion on that item, and everybody can speak. Just want to let you know it's not restricted to just this one time.
And because it is an agenda item, I'm going to wait to speak to it until that time also. Ma'am?
Hi, my name is Sandra Ozon. I'm a member of the Code Enforcement Board. Are we still speaking about code enforcement? We are.
Sure.
Actually, ma'am, petitions and requests is for non-agenda items. Right after petitions and requests is consent agenda. That item is on consent. So if you have a card or you'd like to put a card in, we will pull that item and handle it separately as an agenda item, and everyone can put in cards, and we'll have that full discussion.
Sounds great.
Yes,
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone like to speak about anything else at this time?
Stan Johnson, 860 Poinsettia Avenue. This is the last meeting I spoke about this affidavit that I filed. And Mr. Johnson, you mentioned about opinions, and here's what I've done, is that during Hurricanes Matthew and Irma, is that I went on I-95. I stopped at about, I think there's about 6 of them, 5 or 6 of them, culverts, bucket culverts and big culverts, on I-95, going under 95 from State Road 50 to Fox Lake Road. That's a short distance. Well, it's just a few miles, something like that, and maybe 2 miles or so. So I'm looking at these things, and the water's going real slow, and it's not supposed to be going so slow, and the water's high. I want to say that that's not an opinion, it's a fact. And I went on both those hurricanes, and it's not good. Now, what we have in our stormwater system right now is we have a stormwater atlas. The stormwater atlas doesn't even show these culverts. But if you look at the stormwater master plan, and it's a fact, there they are. There they are, essential elements of our stormwater master plan, our system. And they are moving, water is moving very slowly, gradually bleeding out. We have a problem. It's not an opinion, it's a fact. So I've come to you many times, and I've come to the point where I've now filed a public records affidavit saying is that, hey, it needs to be done. And so that public records says a little bit, it says the parties, the city manager, assistant city manager, and Sean Stauffer, PE, who he's here right now, and he can disagree with me. But to having, just you guys saying, hey, it's an opinion, well, here he can talk about facts and opinions. He's a professional engineer, and he's involved in this, and he's very much against what I say. I mean, it'd be nice to have him say something about it, but he refuses to speak to me, refuses to answer the phone, and refuses to return my emails. So we are in a situation where I don't know what you have to support you, what reasons you have, but I don't find that you have any reasons. I filed this engineering report April the 9th. Over 2 weeks later, I got no response from city manager, Mr. Stauffer, none of you people. So it's nice that you can stand up there and say, hey, this is your opinion, Mr. Johnston. Whereas actually, it's not an opinion, it's facts. And so that's what you're going to deal with. So if something happens, understand is that it's already there in public record, gross negligence.
Your time is up, sir.
May I have 2 more minutes?
No, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
And Mayor, just so council understands, we did respond to Mr. Johnston's email.
No, you didn't.
Mr. Cook responded. And
Sir?
Mr. Cook, in his note to Mr. Johnston, said that he is wrong. These ditches aren't to be maintained by our city.
It's not true.
Sir, you've had your chance to talk. If you do any further talking out of order, I'll have you removed, or we'll go into a recession.
I know. You don't want to listen to the truth.
No, it is the truth. The truth is here, sir. You say we haven't answered you. For sir, it's my turn to talk, not yours. For 6 or 7 years, you have been sending this city, this is 1 year's worth of emails from you, research that was done by our engineers, research that was done by St. John's Water Management, FEMA. We had an independent company come in and check what you had that you said was wrong, and they told you that was wrong. We are tired of it, sir. So you're not going to get a lot more information except you're wrong. And you don't seem to accept that on anything. The ones that you're talking about now aren't even our area. It's not in our districts in the county. You're talking to the wrong people about your problems with St. John's, if there are any. Those are county areas. So that's where we are at this point. Member Nelson.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Is that from before?
That was from before.
Member Sokol, was that from before also?
Yeah.
Okay.
I wanted to potentially invite two members up from the audience in case they wanted to speak now rather than sitting through the meeting. Karen Wade with Rethink Energy of Brevard and John from Citizens Climate Lobby. I think most, if not all of us, met with them regarding some sustainability concerns with the city. I met with them, I think it was last Friday, about potentially proposing a resolution for the city of Titusville to kind of move towards the direction of becoming 100% clean energy, and wanted to see how you guys felt about that, and seeing if we could provide some advisability and looking toward having a resolution, as well as potentially looking at our environmental commission board. And I think we had mentioned that before, kind of transitioning that into potentially a sustainability board as well. And then both of them, I think, are here if you guys had any questions regarding some other cities throughout Brevard County that have been taking some action steps in both of those directions. And I am very much for it, and wanted to see how you guys felt about it as well.
I'm not sure why you're bringing this up.
Because it's not on the agenda, and I know they're here. So I didn't know. I wanted to see, since they're here for this.
They certainly can speak to it. But any decision we'd probably do under our reports.
I don't. Can we do it under here, or do we have to wait till our reports?
Anyone can speak a petitions request on a non-agenda item. And
For
if council wants to have further discussion, you're certainly welcome to do that now or during your items.
Okay.
Just you have that discussion. Like I said, if you want to bring it up again for a vote during your reports, that's fine.
Okay. It's up to you guys, and then I
No,
wanted
that's
to
all
invite
right.
them.
That's okay. I just was kind of surprised why you're bringing it up here, but if, they could have spoken during your report as well, but that's
Yep.
okay. Did they want to come up and speak?
I don't mean to put you guys on the spot.
Are you talking about us?
Yes.
We're not here for that. That's not us.
Oh, I thought. Okay, I am totally misspoken. Okay, I am so sorry. Okay, well, I apologize for that.
Never mind.
Regardless, with that, I do think that we all met with them.
Yes, I didn't know who you were referring to because I
You guys
certainly.
look so familiar, though.
From here, but I've heard that.
Okay, I apologize.
That's okay. I didn't want to interrupt you.
No, it's okay. So regardless, with that, I don't know if you guys wanted to go ahead and potentially provide staff with direction regarding advisability on those two items, or how you felt.
May I?
Yes, go right ahead.
Yes.
I believe we brought this up 2 weeks ago. Was it 2 weeks ago? And I believe Mr. Broom is looking at incorporating some of the sustainability language into the TEC, right?
Right. One of the questions council asked is whether or not the TEC language was broad enough or whether we need to do some amendments. And I've looked at that with Ms. Busak, and we'll report back to, right, because a lot of these things you could incorporate or you could amend the code to expand the duties of your TEC. And yes, you asked us to look at that.
Yes. And actually, I did email them back.
Okay.
Because they had indicated that there were some experts in this area that wanted to become involved. So I asked them to have those people submit their names as potential board members.
Okay. And then would you guys be interested in having the resolution, adopting it potentially?
I'm not crazy about it just because I think it's something we can do as part of the TEC.
And my opinion is similar to that.
Okay.
There are certainly a lot of things, as we were just discussing, that we need to do. It's the storm damage, the lagoon, and we don't have the money to do too many other things at this point. And while that is very worthy, it's not pressing at this point like the lagoon and the parks are. So I certainly would feel positive to saying that we would like to look at that at the proper time, but I don't think this is it, in my opinion. So, Member Diesel?
I would agree with what you said, Mayor. I certainly think that it's something to be brought back to the front burner. I emailed them back too and said I'd like to sit with them again, be refreshed in my mind of I met with them once. I think we all did. But I definitely need to hear more and maybe what have they look like they've accomplished things, South County. I want to hear more about what they accomplished in the direction they're going. I also want to hear the language change that we might be able to get from city attorney. And outside of that, I would agree with Mayor that we have these pressing issues that I don't want to do away with the thoughts that we're talking about here. But I don't like using the word back burner because that just means they can sit there forever. I don't want them to do that. But I think the way Mayor put it, we just have some more pressing issues right now, and the lagoon's very near the top.
Thank you, sir. Right, 6. Vice Mayor, you.
And I just would potentially ask Council or Member Stokel if we might be able to hold discussion or move discussion of this either towards the end of the meeting.
Okay.
Just out of respect for the folks that are here. Because it's worthwhile discussion, if not this meeting, but at a further meeting. But if we could move the discussion, if that would be okay.
Nope, that's perfectly fine.
Or Mayor, if that would be okay.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Okay.
Member Nelson?
I was just going to add one point, and I agree, it might be easier to do this at the end of the meeting, but my understanding is the city staff is already looking at, remember when the TEC spoke, they were talking about maybe solar energy on top of the visitor center charging station, and the city staff is already looking at that, it's my understanding. So we are moving that way.
And well, I'll leave it at that. Okay, any else want to speak on the petitions and requests? I don't see any, so we'll go on to the next item, which is the consent agenda.
Yes, Mayor, I'll go ahead and read for the record all the consent agenda items. We do have cards for item B, C, D, E, and G. Consent agenda item 8A, approved resolution 8-2018 commending out students from the North Brevard area schools for school year 2017-2018. Consent agenda item 8B, approved subject to the resolution of contract terms by the city manager and city attorney, the award of a contract to engineering firm CDM Smith Incorporated of Maitland, Florida, in the amount of $1,778,618 to provide professional engineering consulting services for the design and during the construction of Osprey Facility Nutrient Removal Upgrade Project, and authorize the mayor to execute the contract. Consent agenda item 8C, approve change order number 1 in the amount of $22,000 to modify the existing contract Sierra Victor 15 Papa 019 annual rate study with Public Resource Management Group of Maitland, Florida, and perform additional services to include municipal impact fee study to review the update of the existing police, water, and sewer impact fees that are applied to the new development, and authorize the city manager to execute the change order. Consent agenda item 8D, approve budget amendment transferring funds necessary for contract award and contract related to bid number 18B030 PD security improvements to the Watauga Company of Titusville, Florida, in the amount of $22,170 to construct security improvements at the police department. Additionally, authorize the city manager to execute the contract. Consent agenda item 8B, approve advisability to provide a code enforcement board magistrate in lieu of the existing code enforcement board of volunteer members. Consent agenda item 8F, approve the award of the annual contract to King Services Solution LLC of Orlando, Florida, to perform janitorial services at various city facilities during a 1-year initial term with 4 option 1-year administrative renewals in the amount of $107,538.64 per year, and authorize the mayor to execute the contract. Consent agenda item 8G, accept the draft comprehensive plan policies for inclusion in the evaluation and appraisal EAR-based comprehensive plan amendments as presented at council presentation on 24 April 2018. Consent agenda item 8H, approve change order number 1 in the amount of $75,000 to water reclamation, boy, that's a good one, BP 13651 with Wayne Hill Trucking, Biosolid Transport, and the disposal, and authorize the city manager to to put in place the instruments necessary to process the change order. And council, are there any other items that you would like to pull from the consent agenda items?
Go right ahead.
I'd like to pull 8E.
8E is pulled, ma'am.
Sorry, pulled?
Yep.
Okay.
Anyone else? I see no one else.
Sir, before we get to the cards, there is a resolution, so we will need a roll call on consent when it comes time to vote.
Yes, sir. Okay. Will you read the cards, please, clerk? Call the cards.
First card is on 8B. It's Stan Johnston.
Stan Johnston, 860 Poinsett Avenue. This is for the design of the Osprey Water Reclamation Facility Nutrient Removal Upgrade Project. This has got to do with a part of the Indian River Save Our Lagoon. And I see it's like about $1.8 million. That's a lot of money. It's a lot of money, and it's going to engineers, and engineers don't normally do the construction. They may do some supervision and so forth, and engineering services. It just seems very high, because I was hoping that we were going to have money spent on this Save Our Lagoon. It's going to be spent on improvements, and when they're talking about this water reclamation facility, is that here's what I saw during Hurricane Irma, is I saw a lift station just overflowing for over a week, maybe 2 weeks, right there in Baker Subdivision at the end of Carroll Avenue, just overflowing. So it's going right into the Indian River, raw sewage, over a week. Of course, it was mixed with stormwater. So I think I've got to be, I just feel like, hey, are we really spending our money wisely? All this money, it's just almost as if we got so much money we don't know what to do with. So I think that should be looked at more closely. Thank you.
City Manager, how much is the whole project?
$8 million, sir.
$8 million?
Yes, sir.
And it went out for bids?
Sir.
So we did everything we were supposed to do to...
Well, now the engineering, once we get the engineering done, it'll go out for bid and it will come back to council. As you recall, during the presentation, it had a timeline.
Right.
Yes, sir.
So we're doing what we're supposed to do in order. Yeah, go ahead.
And to staff's credit, I wanted to really commend staff as part of the commitment of cleaning the lagoon. In short, nitrogen is not awesome for the lagoon. It kills fish and grows algae, and it grows algae that kills fish, and that's bad. And the city of Titusville, under the leadership of Mr. Stauffer, has made a commitment, a long-term commitment previous to this. When you pull up maps of the lagoon and you look at algae blooms, it is not coincidental that the impact is happening more down, in my opinion, it happens more down south than it does up north. It's brown and green and nasty, and fish die down there, while next to our shoreline, we have a tremendously less amount of direct impact when those algae blooms happen. And it goes under to the investment that we've made for years now. Furthermore, the efforts of Mr. Stauffer and his crew there securing $8 million or millions of dollars to help supplement the city's investment is a tremendous win for the city. And as taxpayers who consented to a Save Our Lagoon tax, it's nice to see some of that come home to help our city. So, Mr. Stauffer, I commend you. We put in $1 million, we get an $8 million project. That's a good return. I think anybody who wouldn't do that is short-sighted in their resolve. So thank you, and I appreciate your guidance.
And just for clarification, sir, this 1.7 is out of the Save the Lagoon.
My apologies, sir. Thank you. Yeah.
I would suggest if anybody would like to see the facts on it, this current issue of Titusville Talking Points, you can get it online, or you can get a copy of this at the city manager's office downstairs. Shows what we have been doing, and we're way ahead of all of our neighbors in Brevard County by years as far as what has been done and what we are continuing to do for the lagoon. Anyone else? No, on this item? Clerk, any other cards on this item?
Not on this item.
All right, call the next item, next card, please.
Item 8C, Stan Johnston.
Stan Johnston, 860 Poinsett Avenue. I'm reading the agenda packet, and it says that back in March of 2015, we had a contract for doing impact fees for about $84,000. And now we want to add $22,000 for impact fees for the police department. Impact fees for the police department. So $22,000 for just to study impact fees. So we got 44,000 people here or something like that, and everybody's going to spend 50 cents just to do impact fees for the police department, which I found like, my goodness. You know what we did last council meeting is what we not, back in April the 10th or whatever it was, is that we spent over $40,000 for 7 laptop computers for the police. 7 laptops, over about $44,000, and that was laptops plus training. I thought that's a lot of money. And then we spent, same meeting, approved over $140,000, about $139,000 something, about $140,000 for one vehicle plus some equipment to go with it for the police. I'm thinking, what is our mindset? Are we going to martial law or something? We're spending a lot of money, and now we're going to do impact fees for the police department. So it just seems like we are having a mindset that my goodness, and not only that is that what happened here on March the 27th, somebody out here in the hallway was threatened by someone with a gun, and by golly, the security system didn't even work right here in City Hall. So it seems like something's wrong. So thank you very much. I think you ought to first correct the security system right here in City Hall. Thank you.
As you were told at the last meeting, sit down, sir. As you were told at the last meeting, that unit was out. It was immediately fixed the next day, and you know that. I told you that at the last meeting. Don't say fix that one now, because it's done. Did you want to clarify anything?
Sir, our system's fine.
Sir?
Yes, sir. Our system's fine. But what Mr. Johnston did say was the vehicle that was purchased was not for the police. It was for the fire department, and it's an emergency rescue vehicle.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. Yeah, go ahead.
And again, but I just want to commend our commitment to law enforcement, because I believe people want to live in a safe community. A few years ago, we had some challenge. The police were doing great, working with the best that they could at the resources. Council's been committed to helping staff them. Chief has been doing the best he can to help grow that staff. So just know that as an example of our commitment, whereas other communities are way behind the curve with the potential of adding officers to their local schools, we're ahead of the game by a lot. And I'm glad of that commitment. So if we're looking at how are we going to make sure that we have law enforcement in the future and make sure that we plan for the growth of our city, I'm really grateful that we're doing that. So thank you, City Manager.
Well said, sir. 8D.
Stan Johnston.
Stan Johnston, 860 Poinsett Avenue. I don't recall you, Mr. Johnson, saying to me is that something was wrong when it was fixed. I just don't.
I'm sorry that you don't remember it, sir.
Because I guess it's something during the council meeting.
Sir, you have something to say? Say
Okay.
it.
All right. So anyhow, I don't know if it, but this particular award of contract has to do with bulletproofing a records room. That's what I read it about. And my goodness, we had that records room for, I guess, or with that area in there for over 20 years, and now we're going to bulletproof it for $22,000. So I guess the question is justification for this expenditure is it hasn't been, and it's been, it seems to be, I don't know, it's workable, but now it's something of a security risk. So I think that you need a justification for this that has been something that's been in place for maybe 20 years, maybe 15. Thank you.
It's in the police department. Evidently, there is some reason to do that, and certainly we can check on that, but I guarantee we'll find a good reason. What? City Attorney?
Mayor, when we take up item E, advisability of code enforcement, that appears to be, we have a number of people here, probably large discussion. I would suggest pulling that, handling the rest of consent, and then handle that item by itself. Because it's probably going to be a larger discussion with more speakers.
Okay. Can we pull that item? Go to the next item, please.
It would be item G, and we have one card. It's Stan Johnston.
Stan Johnson, 860 Poinsettia Avenue. This is item 8G. And I'm looking at this, and there's some things that I don't see. There was addressed at the last council meeting. They had a presentation, and they had showing along the shoreline. And one of my questions I had was, my goodness, is that what happened at a council meeting this month is someone came forward and said, hey, you know, I'm disappointed because you're having these seawalls and bulkheads and so forth and all kinds of rules and laws enacted, and you didn't contact us on South Lake, but you did contact people over there on the river. And so it seems like it's not fair. And he left I know he left was somewhat disappointed. So I guess one of the questions I'm asking is that even though it doesn't say it on here, are we going to go back and say, hey, you know, this also applies to South Lake, which doesn't seem like it has storm surges and so forth. I want to comment on the storm surge. I don't see that it was on any of the maps because, as far as I know, the storm surge when it comes here, if it should come, it's going to be several feet above the bottom floor of this building, and I don't believe it showed that anything on the map. So that's another thing. It's comments. I don't see that. I see that this packet is described as containing a number of things about flood. It talks about FEMA and so forth, but this seems to be incredibly redundant. Saying, well, we're going to follow FEMA, we're going to do this, we're building FEMA. But so it's a redundancy that I think is absolutely unnecessary. It adds just more paperwork. For example, the goals 1 has nothing to do with what I see as let me go over this. Let me say this, is that this has got a lot to do with water quality. And it has like 5 goals listed, and it has to do with water quality, and it appears that this really needs to go through TEC, our Titusville Environmental Commission, and it seems like it's a slap in the face if you don't go through TEC on this thing. I have a problem with goal number 5. It says that cities shall accomplish post-disaster redevelopment in a manner that shall minimize public and private vulnerabilities to future disasters. That sounds good, but then it says under that, it says, as a part of post-disaster planning and management, the city will prepare inventories of properties for acquisition and removal, blank, blank, blank. So it sounds like, again, as this is another movement, like city has done in the past, is they take property, which seems to be like in an unfair manner, like they've done in administrative rezonings and so forth. So people are not pleased with taking of their property. So 2 more minutes?
No, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you for your opinions again. Next item, or we?
Yeah, I believe what City Attorney had suggested, sir, is you go ahead and vote on A through H minus E, and then do E separately. And as a reminder, this is you do have a resolution on 8A, which is a roll call vote.
Okay. Accept a motion to approve the items that he just said.
Consent agenda item B, C, D, F, G, H, and resolution A. Resolution number 8-2018.
It's motion to approve.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Second. I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Member Diesel?
Yes.
Member Nelson?
Yes.
Mayor Johnson?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Behringer?
Yes.
Member Stokel?
Yes.
Passes unanimously. So we're going back to E. Is that's the, yes. Okay. All right, advisability.
You want to call cards?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Yeah,
We have
I
Joe
thought he'd do that.
Richardson, but I know he spoke under petition, so okay. And then we have Stan Johnston.
My name is Stan Johnson. I'm speaking against this establishment of a code enforcement magistrate. Why? Let me give you an example. This past week, I had a conversation with the realtor, and here's what he said to me. He said, there was this house on Indian River Avenue, and the code enforcement had fines on it totaling, I'd seen about $80,000. And the realtor negotiated, whatever, they hit a negotiation, and they knocked it down to $6,000 or $7,000. Well, I'll tell you what. I believe that it was fair because I know that it was done by a number of citizens. It was something that was done fair. However, if it were one person, doing the judging, I would have big suspicions on, because there's a tremendous amount of let's say, a possibility of corruption, of greed, of something under the table. So okay, so I'm very much, that's one of the reasons I'm against it, and I'm also sympathetic with what Mr. Richardson shared, is that we're not like that little podunk town over there towards near Geneva or wherever it is, and we've got 44,000 people. I think it's a bad idea. It's more like a military type of thing to have a magistrate doing that, and I think he's very suspect to not doing it in the line of justice. So there's other reasons that I'm against it, but I think we should continue with our citizens being in control of this. We will have something that will be what I believe is fair, whereas a magistrate is going to be just one person, and he can make some. I'd rather have people. I'd rather have our citizens doing this and in control of it. And I'm surprised that some people didn't find out about it. I'm hoping that she'll be able to speak too, even though she hadn't got a card. Thank you.
Member Diesel, is this a
The last card we have is Tom Altiff.
Yeah, she is.
Tom Altiff, 410 South Hopkins, Titusville. I am in favor of a code enforcement magistrate. I think a code enforcement magistrate could be fair and impartial, in particular if it's someone from outside the city. And I think we could see very easily if that person is ruling as to what the code enforcement statutes are, or if that person is not following those statutes. I commend voluntary boards. I thoroughly believe in voluntary boards, but I think on some issues we need to have a different level of enforcement. And so I'm in favor of it.
Thank you, sir. And City Attorney, if this were to go forward, and it's far from going anywhere at this point, it would be a qualified attorney, I assume, that would be looking for to take this position.
If council's interested in going with the magistrate, we would do a request for proposals for qualified individuals with experience. That's correct, and we would have a committee to evaluate them. Yes. So we wouldn't say you have to be from out of town, but they have to be qualified, and we would be looking for attorneys with that experience.
Okay. And am I out of order if I let that lady speak who was going to
No, sir, that's why we pulled this item
okay.
to allow, because we knew speakers were here. So anybody who would like to speak to this item, my suggestion is you speak on this item.
Ma'am, if you'd like to speak, this is the time.
Okay. Hello, my name is Sandra Ozon. I live at South Washington Avenue. and 2219 to be exact. I have lived here for about 8 years. I'm very passionate about the codes being enforced in Titusville, very interested in getting the town looking as good as possible and keeping it that way. I've joined the Code Enforcement Board because I really cared. I think it's very important to have people as a whole. I do believe, I'm shocked that this has happened. I found out about this today. And it just doesn't seem right to me that it would happen this way. And I also feel that we do need multiple heads together. I can guarantee you that each of us is very careful about the Sunshine Code. We make sure we never speak to each other improperly. And we all, I can speak only for myself, of course, but we are very impartial to all of the items that come across the docket. So if you want to do some training and do a better job of that to get us more well qualified for the decisions, or if that's the problem, then I would be all for that. But to have one person to be the person to make all these decisions when there's a lot of money at stake for a lot of people, I think it's a bad idea as well. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. I'm going to start this off. This is something that's an advisability, and advisability doesn't mean it's going to go this way or it's going to go this way. And there is nobody has the least idea of saying that the board hasn't done a good job. It has. But we have a responsibility here, since we're the man who was doing it for 40 years, Mr. Roberts, tendered his resignation, and it's up to this council to look and see, is it a good idea to go this way, or is it a good idea to go this way? I haven't made up my mind. I can't speak for anybody else because I haven't spoken to anybody else about it. And we just got that information because they just, the staff looked at it and said, well, we, in the interest of the taxpayers, have to look and see. If you read what's in that, information, it gives both sides of it there as well. Some of it you or I might agree with, and some of it we wouldn't. But no decision has been made at this point. But we have the responsibility up here of looking the situation over and seeing, part of it is always comes down to how much does it cost, and is it cheaper one way or the other way. I think to all of the boards that have served over the years, we haven't had any major problems, certainly, but we have to look at it. That's why we ask for an advisability, because they will do the research on it, and then they will come back to us and give us all the facts, and then we will make a decision. Certainly your input is appreciated. Everybody's input is appreciated. So that's where we're at. Vice Mayor.
Thank you. So I'll propose for council maybe a way to option to step forward and rationale for it. So relative to giving any guidance to say take action for the dissolving of the way that we've been doing it, that's off the table. So my advisability is no to that. The how to move forward to meet the review of kind of what we're looking at. I think there's about 3 different issues that we're looking at. So one is just this idea where and people have argued about juries, are they good or are they bad? And there are multiple ways to do that. There are legal systems throughout the world that handle decision making differently. We happen to have a council made up of citizens, and I have faith in that. So in the same respects to our code enforcement board, I have faith in the value of citizens and so forth and so on. I also can understand the rationale for saying, do you have somebody who's a professional, this is all that they do all day, and so on and so on. There's logic to that, and I get that. That is a debate that it will go on in the legal field for a very long time on which one's better or not, and everybody comes up with their own. So I don't think that that's the debate at hand. Being said, in a way to move forward, during our priorities for the objectives for the city of Titusville for the upcoming year, as a council, we covered quite a few, and I think that multiple priorities, my takeaway was that we had a lot of agreement about things that were important. As an example, the lagoon is important, although we didn't necessarily put it on a piece of paper, because I think we all said it's a given, right? Or some of these things. One of the ideas that I brought forward was this idea of good governance. And a portion of good governance is, what do we do with our boards? And not just boards, but how do we communicate? How do we do these things? As an example, you had mentioned, well, can we go to training? I couldn't possibly tell you if that's the right answer or wrong answer for you, in the same way that for us. So the effective goals of our boards as defined for the creation and how is it functioning, I don't think is a measure solely based for this board. I think it's the question that we look at them all in an idea of how do we provide good governance across the board, not just them, but everybody. Being said, how to move forward would be when we get our feedback from our adopted objectives, when we get that feedback, if governance is something that we as a body want to take a look at that is inclusive of our boards, I think that that would be the time to talk about it or so forth and so on. In the meantime, if there are questions that obviously our board members have about why is this happening, and right, because we're feeling blindsided, and we as a council can do research on, I think that that would probably give us an appropriate amount of time to open up dialogue about what the intent, what the concerns, what the value is, and have a conversation that would probably be comprehensively more effective. So pause on this. We're not, don't dissolve, don't move forward with the magistrate. Potentially agree that governance is something that we should look at as a body, and then move forward with, have a communication with our board about what's good, what's bad, and how do we move forward.
So what you're saying is what I said.
Support to it.
We're getting the information. We're not doing the research. Staff does the research. And then we're going to look at all of it, and we'll make a decision from there. And you, the board, or the public, are welcome to get into that conversation, as you always are, at that point, when we have all the information. Okay. Member Diesel.
Without, excuse me, without getting into the side of the magistrate or the board, it does, first of all, appear that this is a working board that gets the job done. We've lost a very important, integral piece of that, and that may be where this idea came from. The part that I am hearing that concerns me is that the lack of communication, the lack of knowledge, the waking up and seeing that, well, they might dissolve our board. Even if we're just advisability, it's certainly approve advisability provide for a code enforcement board magistrate in lieu of the existing code enforcement board of volunteer members. I think I understand what the staff is saying, and they want us to do some advisability on that possibility. But if you just read that and you're on that board, it looks like A, you might be done, and B, you might not be as appreciated as you wish you were. And I'm not saying either is true. I'm simply saying perception is more important than reality. And certainly I can see, having read that, if someone was to write something that we're going to come up with a magistrate, for lack of a better word, and we're not going to need the city council anymore, and we're just going to advise about it, it would still bother me. So I certainly understand that. I hope that there's some way we can do a better job of talking to you before you read it on here, and say, maybe even, what do you think? And from there, it doesn't mean they're not going to, the staff wouldn't move forward. It doesn't mean that we won't advise, but it does mean that I would like to think that people who are on our boards, because we've talked over and over again how we have a hard time finding people to serve on our boards. And then when we do something like this, I can see why it might be hard to find people who serve on our boards. So I appreciate you.
I don't totally disagree with you, but I don't think anything was done maliciously. I think.
Oh, I didn't use the word malicious.
No, I know you didn't. I'm saying that I don't think it was done intentionally to hurt anyone. It's just from their point of view, staff's point of view, it's the council who has to take the facts and that they present, I mean, that they're going to do the research on and make a decision from there. You know, you certainly would always have the ability to chime in on it. I understand you were surprised, and perhaps that was the issue, and I'll apologize for that. But I can also understand where staff was looking at it differently from you are, where you thought this was a decision-making evening. It's not, and we've made that abundantly clear, I think. City Attorney?
Yes, sir. I've seen some emails on this issue today, and I thought it was important to clear it up a little. I know that it says City Attorney, and the way it's been read is that this is a request to go in this manner, which it wasn't. I just want you to understand this was a situation where we have the code board attorney retiring and staff saying, is this an opportunity to decide what do we do? Are we going to hire a new code board attorney, or is this an opportunity to look at whether council is interested in a magistrate? There was no advocacy either way. City manager wanted to look at efficiency of boards and just have a discussion with council. So it came from my office merely because the city, Mr. Rogers, the code board attorney, was retiring, so they asked our office to put the agenda item in the agenda. So this is not an advocation one way or the other from my office. I know I've seen some emails that think that. I just want you to know this is not something where we have taken a side either way. We merely put the agenda item into the agenda. I do agree with council. As worded, it appears that there's a bent or a slant or an advocacy that we're seeking to do something. This was merely a discussion item for council. So I want council to understand that as well. To let you know there are options, but we will need to either hire a code board attorney to represent this code board, or if you decide to go another direction, it'll be an attorney, be a magistrate. But I just wanted to clear that up, that it's not something that my office was advocating one way or another. We just merely put the agenda item together for your consideration. And again, I've worked with Code Board since 2005. Really had a great relationship. They do a great job. And I've enjoyed it. But I just want to clear that up.
Member Nelson.
I think I would feel a whole lot better about discussing this tonight if somebody had gone to the board members and said, okay, this is a concern. How do we want to handle it? What do you guys think? You know, we talk about communication being key, but these guys got no notice. They get nothing. And I don't think we can treat our volunteers like that. They're a working board. As far as I can tell, they've done good work over the last couple of years. And to turn around and say, well, we're going to talk about changing it without talking to them first really bothers me. I found out about it yesterday morning when Joe called and asked about it. And at that point, none of them had any idea what was going on. And I think Joe actually went out and called everybody. So I appreciate that. I've worked with judges and juries, and there's good and bad to be said about both. So I don't know if we can turn around and say a magistrate is better than a board of their peers. I think sometimes it's easier to have your peers make that decision. Of course, sometimes it's better to have the judge make that decision. But for the most part, they are members of our community, and I think our community appreciates having input from other people in the community. So I'm not crazy about the idea of changing it. Like I told Joe, it doesn't seem to be broken. Let's not fix it. And we don't seem to have the problem of finding volunteers for that board. So I'm not in favor of this.
Member Stokel.
Just want to echo some of the comments that the other council members said. At the same time, I did meet with staff on Friday, and I could see where you guys kind of feel like, whoa, what's going on? But when I was looking at it, it appeared to be advisability, so I knew that there was not going to be a decision made tonight. So I'm sorry you guys feel like that kind of happened. Moving forward, I think as we start to look at this, again, I don't know, we probably wouldn't have even looked at this had Mr. Rogers not put in his resignation. I think from talking to staff and looking at other cities, a lot of them have moved toward this direction. And so that's some of the things that I want to kind of look at is see what other cities in the surrounding areas are doing. Is it working? Is it not? I would love to meet with you guys individually to kind of see how you feel the board's going. Because I guess when I'm up here, there's certain things that I'm looking for representing the citizens, making sure that our citizens are being heard, making sure that we're providing certain resources, and trying to keep costs at a minimal. So I'll be interested in seeing kind of where that cost comes into play as well, while making sure that the citizens have a voice and are being represented fairly. So that being said, I would love to meet with you guys. I don't think, and this is a question for staff, it looks like Mr. Rogers' resignation will take effect August 1st. So I don't know what that looks like in terms of when we would potentially need to hire on a new attorney to kind of fill with the board going forward or move in the direction of a magistrate. I don't know.
My advice is you would need to advertise as soon as possible.
Okay.
Because you will want to do interviews, you'll want to give ample time for people to put their applications in, like I said, to interview them and get them on board. So, you know, it may be a 2-month process. I mean, that doesn't need to be done tomorrow. I just want to let you know that you want enough time to have applicants and come in.
So if we were to approve advisability, would staff be able to come back with information regarding potential costs on the city side, as well as what other surrounding areas and municipalities are currently doing?
If council is at all interested in exploring the idea further, my advice is advise council to put this on an agenda for news business, and what information would you like to be presented at that time for your consideration.
Okay.
And based on that meeting, you could decide whether you want to move forward or not.
Okay.
If you think there's more information you would like to consider.
I'm not sure what you just said. As far as I'm concerned, we're not making a decision tonight. Well, the only decision we're making is to get all the facts so we can make a decision.
That's what I just said. If
Is
council is interested in receiving more information at all on this item and moving forward at all on having a discussion on this item, I would put it on another agenda for new business to have an entire discussion on whether you're interested in moving in any direction. Or tonight you could say we're not interested in a magistrate period and we don't want to have another meeting.
Or we could just say we want to do the advisability and get all the facts.
Sure, but as worded, the advisability was to move forward with the magistrate. I'm just suggesting that's not what you're saying. You'd like to have an agenda item to discuss all options.
I think what the city attorney is saying, the way that this is worded, one is moving forward with the magistrate, one could be moving forward with getting advisability on information, and one could be moving forward with, no, we just want to stick with how we are. So I think there's 3 different options.
Okay, my option, as it always is to get all of the facts that we can get before I make a decision. And we've had experience with this in the recent past on different subjects that we rushed into things or almost rushed into things without getting the facts. I want the choice that gives us all the facts, and then we will make a decision. Which one is that?
Sure. The council could have that as an agenda item for new business. At that time, you could ask staff to bring forward what you just said, all the information and all the facts pertaining to both issues for your discussion.
Can't we do that tonight with the advisability?
If we agree on it, I think.
Yes, we're just asking when you do that, that's how you would word your advisability. Correct.
Yeah, let me help out here a little bit, if I can, Mayor.
Oh, yes.
So the purpose of an advisability is to ask staff to do research.
Right.
And come back to council for your decision.
Right.
If you choose not to have advisability, staff just won't do anything.
I understand that.
So that's what we're asking. Do you want us to take a look and do analysis on this board or not?
That's the way I understood it to begin with. I got a little confused by what the city attorney said because we got another choice in there. That tonight, as what I see is we vote for the advisability, which will give us all the facts, and then we won't be wasting any time, and we can make the decision at the next meeting which way to go, because we'll have all the facts at that point. So I think that's the way we should go, but I'll listen to anybody else who wants to. Vice Mayor, you up again?
Yeah, it is, and thank you. Just in the versions of the strategic plan presented, which is later this evening, the current advisory boards are a portion of that strategic plan as long as it makes the cut, and it's on all three versions. Being said, where I am in agreement to get facts, because this question needs to get answered, right? No matter what the case, because either we're hiring somebody or not hiring somebody. There's a new lawyer coming, or there's somebody who's going to be on that board, and where that's coming from, whatever the case may be. So that is irrelevant to a magistrate, barring we're full steam on that route. I would be more apt to looking at how we are moving forward as a whole plan for our boards prior to changing boards.
We're not changing anything.
What my understanding of this is that, yes, we are going to get information, all of it, regarding how does magistrates work, what do they cost, what's the benefit, all of the information, I believe. What I'm asking is that I don't want to do a small chunk of a piece that I think fits our strategic goal if there's actually a bigger piece we could take on. So if it's a review of all our boards and which ones need attention and which one needs priorities, I would rather look at that comprehensively from a larger goal as opposed to changing one portion of one board and not looking at that as a comprehensive view of what are we doing with our boards.
I'm afraid what you're asking would slow down the process so much that it would become absurd. Because you were asking to look at all of the boards. Well, we're not changing any of the boards at this point. The only one we're looking at, because something precipitated it, with the man who's been doing it for 40 years tendering his resignation. So that's the only one we have to look at. Okay. And we do that by accepting this advisability, as you said yourself, and getting all the information. So are you through, sir?
That's it. Thank you.
Member Nelson.
Mayor, I'm sorry, I'm going to disagree with you.
You're right.
But, I mean, we're talking about, are we going to hire an attorney, or are we going to hire a magistrate who is an attorney? And is a magistrate going to be cheaper? That attorney is going to be cheaper than the attorney who is the board attorney. And I can't see that one is going to be cheaper than the other.
You're only putting one fact in the thing, or one thing that we're going to look at. Yes, we will look at what it costs for doing those things. And then we will make a judgment and what it costs to have a volunteer board. All of those things are going to be there. That's only one part of it. Then we got to look at how well it works. We have 40 years of history, which I think that stands for a lot.
Yeah, it does.
But we have to get all of the information on it, and then make a decision. I don't know why everyone's so resistant about getting information.
Because I think in this particular instance that information is not going to be...
Please don't think for me.
I won't.
Okay.
I won't. But
this is your opinion.
This is my opinion, is that either way is going to cost X amount of money, and there is going to be a negligible difference between doing it with the magistrate and doing it with the board. So at this point, I'm not willing to approve the advisability.
I still don't understand it, because if everything you say happens, then we're going to make a decision. And at that point, you can vote as you wish, and everybody else will vote as they wish, and we'll make a decision with all the facts. I mean, there's nothing to lose by this. It's getting all of the facts. And I will always stand firm about getting facts before we make decisions.
And I appreciate that.
Okay, all right. I think that's it. I see no more lights. At this point, I think we have to vote on the advisability. Is that?
We'll need a motion on what council wants to do.
Oh, go ahead, sir.
If we don't approve the advisability, where does that sit? Where does that issue sit?
It doesn't. It sits where it is. We've made a decision to leave it, to stop finding any more information out.
And what do we do with that board without the attorney?
Right. If this council has no interest in exploring a magistrate, then we will proceed with hiring an attorney to represent the board.
Okay.
But that's making a decision without all the information that we will have once they do the research on the advisability. We may get surprised. I don't know. That's why you get the facts.
I would say this, and again, we certainly have had some concerns about some boards and some no-shows and some we don't have enough people to meet, and that doesn't seem to be the case with this board. I think I heard you say that this has been successful for 40 years, and we lost our attorney. And so it would seem like perhaps the two options were from staff, well, we need to get another attorney, or we need to step back and look at a magistrate or an attorney and decide how we're going to do this board in the future. But I haven't heard anything from anybody stating that this board's in trouble and needs fixing. That's probably where I'm getting stuck, because I'm all for advisability if we need advisability, but I need to maybe hear why we decided to think about the magistrate if this board has been so successful, and all we really need to do is replace the missing part.
Because it's our responsibility to do that with a major change in the situation. And I don't know how the numbers are going to work out, and I don't know how the feelings are going to work out. Again, that's why I want all the facts. Nobody's making any accusations against that board. That's not what I'm doing, what anybody else should be doing. We should be finding out the rest of the facts. Why some people use one methodology, why some cities use another methodology. It may be a coin toss, for all I know, but I would like to get the information to find out. I don't think that's unreasonable.
Well, I'm not saying any of this is unreasonable, whichever way we go. I don't think it's unreasonable if things have been successful and we haven't had a problem that we maintain that. I can see that not being unreasonable. I can see saying, well, but now we have the opportunity, let's look and see how other people are doing it, and I don't think either is unreasonable. I just would probably have been, or would probably feel stronger about, well, let's look at this or let's look at that if we were having a problem. And if staff can say we really need to fix what's going on down there or whatever, then I'd like to hear that.
Vice Mayor, this is your third or fourth?
Make a
motion?
Yeah. I would make a motion to move forward with advisability for information related to all things related to the board that could make the board more effective, in addition to review by matrix of what an effective board looks like, provided by staff. And if it would be okay to the board, I'll give some rationale for that.
After we get a second. Is there a second to that? I don't hear a second. I think that's because you put the answer in the question by saying improving the board. What we want to find out is which way is the best way to go. If you want to change that and don't put the word board in every other sentence, I think you might have something going there. It didn't get a second. All right, let's move on, please. Anybody else like to make a motion?
I've moved to not approve the advisability.
I have a second on that. I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? I think that's the biggest mistake that I've ever seen this board make, and I've seen this board make some pretty big mistakes.
I would make it bigger.
Probably so, but I don't want to make them again, because the ones we made were because we didn't have the facts. So I really would be.
And I'd feel more comfortable with what you said about a mistake if someone would tell me what's wrong with this board.
Nothing.
Then why are we trying to fix it?
I think
because it's our responsibility
To
do
fix
that.
what? You don't have to fix it if it's not. I don't replace my tires if they're not flat.
Then,
Okay.
go ahead.
For
You go ahead.
I think since this came up, again, it wouldn't have been an issue had Mr. Rogers not retired. I think staff had looked into the issue and seen, okay, there have been some cities that moved in this direction. I would like a little time to look into that a little bit more, personally. I don't know. I understand, if you feel like there's not something wrong, don't go and fix it. But if there is something better, I will say I've gotten emails from some people that are like, please don't do this. This is working great. And then I've also gotten some emails, this is a great idea. Whoever came up with this would solve a lot of issues. And so for me personally, I'd be okay with moving into advisability because I know we would not be making a decision. At that point, I feel like I'd have a little bit more time, a couple weeks, to kind of meet with some of the code enforcement members and talk to them. I'd have time to call up some other elected officials that I know in surrounding cities and seeing what they're doing. So I feel I can make the best decision for our city. So I would be okay with approving some advisability because we're not making a decision right now. It gives us a couple weeks to really feel good about it, whether we move in the direction of, nope, we're good how we are. I've done my investigative work. I love the board. It's growing great. Or, you know what? Hey, maybe there's some room for improvement. And I'll feel a lot more comfortable giving that. So that's kind of where I stand at this point. So I would not really be in favor of not approving advisability.
Thank you. Member Diesel, is that your light still?
Yeah, and I'm still trying to understand all that. But I would not be opposed to stepping back, and I guess we're not making a decision even with advisability.
Right.
But, and I guess I'm just bothered by them waking up and reading that, hey, we may go another direction and nobody telling them. Maybe I'd feel better about that.
That fact has been told and apologized for, and that is unfortunate circumstance, but it has nothing to do with what we're doing here tonight. I mean, that was unfortunate, and it probably was the cause of what we're talking about tonight, but that's not really got anything to do with the actual decision.
And I'll leave out there what I said previously. I just, if somebody was to say, I think I heard city attorneys say that I've worked well with them. I've heard people say they've gone 40 years, we haven't had a problem.
We also heard a gentleman get up tonight and say that he thought it would be a good idea not to have it. And I'm not saying that's the answer.
But even he didn't say that we had problems with this board.
No, he didn't.
He just thought it might be a good idea. It might be a good idea. It doesn't give me a good feeling about erasing a board that's stood by us and done all they can for us.
Has done
I
that,
didn't say
Dan.
they did, but when we decide if we're going to keep this board or not keep this board, there is at least that perception that there must be something wrong with it.
I don't feel that way, Dan. That's not in my mind. My mind is getting the facts, see what works the best, and if it's this board, that's fine with me. If this type of board, that's fine with me. But if we find out that there is some overwhelming factor that it's the black swan, you don't know till you go out and find one. So, and that's what I think we need to do, get the facts and then make a decision. There's no decision until we make that final decision, but I want to make the decision with all the facts. And I see one more light, and that's going to, no, that's your light. Anything else? That's all right. I'll call the question. Somebody's got to, because it's a negative.
Right, the motion was to deny advisability, so if you vote yes, that is to deny advisability.
And a roll call vote, please.
Member Nelson?
Yes.
Mayor Johnson?
No.
Vice Mayor Behringer?
Yes.
Member Stokel?
No.
Member Diesel.
Yes.
You heard the vote. Ma'am,
May I say something, sir?
only if you come up to the...
Yeah, I will. I'm Pat Bell. I'm the chair of the Code Board. Yes, this was an unexpected thing, although we knew Mr. Rogers was wanting to retire, which he should by rights. That's okay. It was a shock to know that it was going to come before the council probably tonight and say that we were told we're going to be dissolved. So, we don't want to do that. We have a great board. We try and do the best we can for the citizens of the city. We're all comprised of different areas of different things. Some of us take time off from work to come and do this. Y'all don't pay us. We're free labor. Let us stay if we can. But I agree with finding out what's the best, whether it's to hire another another attorney to work with the code board or advisability of a magistrate. But we're here to do what's best for the city of Titusville. And I will say to you, one of the things that comes up more often than not, why does it take so long? Maybe that's where the issue is, and that we need to revise some of how long it takes to get things through the code board, and things like that. But we're here to serve the citizens of Titusville, and we're not going to stop doing that.
And I appreciate that, and I appreciate all you've done, all of you, and the people who were before you. And it was never in my mind that you did anything wrong.
Well, and I appreciate that. And I thank you for apologizing for hopefully putting the cart before the horse. But we're not trying to do that. We're trying to be consistent with what decisions we make, and we try to be fair to all the citizens of the city. But I do know that with the code board, as a code board member, I look at different things differently now than what I did as just a private citizen that didn't know what was going on. So I look at things differently. And we're very constant and aware of the Sunshine Law, so we don't discuss things out there. But we do see things differently than what we would have in the past. So just take that in consideration, and thank you.
It's done, Pat. It's done. All right. I'm sorry, but I need a couple minutes to settle down a little bit here. So let me find out where we're at. We're on the number 9, ordinances, second reading.
Yes, sir. This is 9A, which is rezoning, which is quasi-judicial. So I'll read the quasi-judicial procedures at this time. During the public hearing portion of the meeting, anyone wishing to speak on a quasi-judicial item must first sign a public hearing agenda card and sign the oath contained thereon. These cards are located on the table in the back of the council chamber. Those speaking in favor of a request will be heard first. Those opposed will be heard second, and those who wish to make a public comment on the item will speak third. The applicant may make a brief rebuttal if necessary. Witnesses may be cross-examined by the applicant, council, staff representatives, and such other representatives as authorized by the council. If you have photographs, sketches, or documents that you desire for the city council to consider, they must be submitted into evidence and will be retained by the city. Please submit such exhibits to the city clerk. City clerk, have all persons wishing to speak before city council sign an oath card?
Yes, sir.
If there is anyone present who has not signed an oath card that wishes to speak on a quasi-judicial item, please submit a card at this time. City clerk, have all agenda items been properly advertised? Have any council members visited any of the sites or spoken to any members of the public regarding an item to be reviewed under quasi-judicial?
No.
Thank you. Mayor, at this time, I'll read rezoning number 2018, which is ordinance number 20, 2018.
Yes, sir, please.
Ordinance number 20, 2018, an ordinance of the City of Titusville, Florida, amending ordinance number 5, 1993 of the City of Titusville, Florida, by reference by removing all previous conditions of approval originally applied by ordinance number 102, 2005, and subsequently modified by ordinance number 13, 2010, within the multifamily medium-density residential R2 zoning district for 2 properties totaling 21.32 acres located on the east side of U.S. Highway 1, approximately 1/2 mile south of the intersection of U.S. Highway 1 and River Edge Drive, having a tax ID numbers 221-3429 and 2222674, and providing for an effective date.
This is your second reading and public hearing. Planning and Zoning recommended approval of this action 5-0. This item was tabled at the regular City Council meeting held on 10 April 2018. The applicant, Honeywell and Associates, on behalf of the property owner Convey Riverwalk LLC, is requesting to amend the existing zoning designation on 2 parcels totaling approximately 21.32 acres located on the east side of US 1, approximately 1/2 mile south of the intersection of US 1 and River's Edge Drive. The purpose of this request is to remove the conditions originally applied for by Ordinance 102-2005 as part of CPA 2005-02E and subsequently modify Ordinance 13-2010 as part of Zoning 3-2010. The property is within the comprehensive plan future land use designation of medium density residential. The property is currently vacant and covered with natural vegetation, and the Addison Canal crosses the property near the far southeast corner of the property. The purpose of this rezoning is to remove the conditions previously applied in order to construct an apartment complex meeting the standards of multi-family medium density or R2 zoning district. The current R2 zoning on property has 6 conditions of approval, which the applicant is proposing to remove in order to accommodate the proposed land development. The site plan will be submitted consistent with land use regulations. And Ms. Bisaka is here to give you a quick presentation before the applicant and subsequent cards speak.
Good evening, Ms. Bisaka.
Good
How are
evening.
you?
Thank you. I'm fine. This conditional use permit request is a little different than those you've seen before, and the zoning itself is not changing. What the proposal is to remove certain conditions that were applied in 2010 to this zoning. The comprehensive plan has been reviewed, and staff does not find that this request is inconsistent with that. Because the zoning is not changed, it doesn't really change impact to the public facilities, streets, or the consistency of the existing zoning. I do know that the applicant representative has met with representatives from the neighborhood, and I believe that they have come to some understanding as to what some conditions that they feel would be appropriate in lieu of the conditions that are being requested to be removed. But I can let Mr. Honeycutt make that presentation.
Okay. Council, you have any questions of Ms. Bisaka? I don't see any. I'll open the public hearing. Clerk, call the speakers by card, please.
First card is Rodney Honeycutt.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Thank you for allowing me to be here tonight. As was explained by the city manager and the planning director, this was delayed, I think, from April 10th previously for a final hearing. And so after that, I tried to get in touch with some of the local people, and through maybe some miscommunications, we actually didn't get together until yesterday. Today we had a meeting, and I think it was successful. And one other thing is, one of the reasons this had all the conditions before, well, I guess there were 2. One was an assisted living facility, not just an apartment complex. And then separately from that was residents like today that have some comments. And so I'm going to give the clerk copies of what I understand that we agreed to today, and they'll be here to talk to verify that they agree or don't. So the conditions that we discussed today was along the east side of the property, and the east side is the side that's parallel with River Edge Drive. On the east side, we would agree to a 25-foot undisturbed buffer, number one. And code requires a 20-foot landscape buffer, but it don't require it to be undisturbed. So you could remove the trees and then replant it. So that's why this condition, and it's 25 feet instead of 20. And the second thing is we agree that the 25-foot buffer along the east property line will be placed in a conservation easement. Mainly that makes them feel more comfortable that we couldn't come back and clear it or something. The third condition that we would agree to is on the west side or on the development side of that 25-foot undisturbed buffer, we would install a fence, a solid fence. Solid meaning it's opaque, 6 feet high, except for Addison Creek. We wouldn't be able to block Addison Creek. Now, we didn't talk about that today, but I think they would understand we can't block the creek. And it does cross the southeast corner of the property. And by the way, that's not being rezoned. That's in OR zone, and we're leaving that in OR zone. The fourth thing is that the next 25 feet west of the fence, the solid fence we'd be putting up, any specimen trees in that area we would not remove. Code requires that you protect those trees, but you can remove them and mitigate for it. So we're saying we would not remove those trees in that 25-foot area, any specimen tree. And I do think I've walked that line, and I do think there are a few of those trees. The advantage to that for those owners is the specimen trees are a lot taller, and so they wouldn't be as likely to see some buildings there if you leave the taller trees instead of replacing them with shorter trees. And so the other thing I did is I talked to the business to the north, that's the eastmost business, and that's, I think it's Falcon Marine Boat Manufacturing, and they said they wanted to make sure that there was a barrier there, and code will require through the site plan process that a residential and an industrial area be separated and that there is a fence, so there has to be that. He said he thought that the business just west of him had that same comment. I tried to get up with that person, and I was not able to, in case they're here tonight, to let them know that. And so with that, I think that we've addressed the concerns that the people had that have been emailing. And I would welcome any questions.
Any questions from Mr. Honeycutt? I see none.
Okay, so if there is anything said different, then I'd like to have the chance to rebut.
Yes, sir. You will have that opportunity.
Thank you very much.
Clerk, will you call the next card, please?
Next card is Patricia Hildebrand. And then Mr. Hildebrand.
Thank you, Council, for even listening to us, and we appreciate Mr. Honeycutt. He did meet with us today, and you understand our concerns. We have single-family waterfront homes, and we don't want the traffic and the noise that a three-story apartment building would bring. So that's why we asked for the buffer and also leaving the larger trees, hoping to somewhat block that and not devalue our property. So the couple things, just some constructive criticism, not regarding this, Mr. Mayor, is we had a hard time. I could hear everybody on the council except for when you were speaking to the other council members.
I apologize. I have a tendency to turn.
I could hear everybody, but I could not hear what you were saying to the other council members.
I apologize, ma'am. I do have a tendency to turn toward
constructive criticism. I just wanted to tell you that because we couldn't hear what you were saying. But I feel good about the conditions. I hope that would be a positive thing, and that do we need to follow up on that? Is that something that is written in and
that's something they've
solidified,
agreed to, that will be in.
Because we've had this problem before on River Edge Drive years ago. It was another whole council, a different mayor, but we had a lot of problems, and it didn't turn out. They approved a site plan that actually wasn't written, kind of a proposed site plan, and it didn't go the way it was supposed to go, and we had a hard time with that. So I'm a little
Ms. Busaka, would you address
confused.
that, please?
Yes, these conditions, if they're approved by council, will become part of the conditional use permit.
Yes.
And any development will be reviewed against these conditions.
Yes, okay. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time.
Yes, ma'am, thank you. Next card, please.
I'm Jimmy Hildebrand, 5425 River Edge Drive, and I really do appreciate Mr. Honeycutt meeting with us. Very knowledgeable individual. I have 50 years in construction myself, and of course all the environmental studies are automatically involved in this property. So I'm in agreement with what he's proposed on this property, and I appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
Stan Johnston.
Stan Johnston, 860 Poinsett Avenue. What we have is the people who spoke for, then the next one's supposed to be against, then the next is neither. I'm neither. So don't get me wrong about that. I submitted a card on April the 10th to speak on this issue. The main point I was going to say, if I was to speak April the 10th, is saying is I want to see that make sure that people are notified of this of these changes, because I know that the people on River Edge Drive have been very concerned about what's going to happen there. And so it sounds like you did the right thing, that you tabled it, and they got the input. So I'm here just to say is that that's what I was looking for, and that is to see that the people were notified. And Mr. Honeycutt sounds like he's done a fine job. He does good work. Thank you.
Thank you.
Claudette Beggs.
Good evening. I'm Claudette Beggs, 5337 River Edge Drive, and I'm reiterating what everybody else has just said. We're very thankful that this item was delayed or tabled for tonight, so we had an opportunity, since we didn't get the notification. And so we're very thankful that this was tabled so we could come back, have time to look into see what's going on in that new development and what the zoning was all about, and had a great opportunity, great meeting with Mr. Honeycutt. We appreciate where we went. And he and the developer were very cooperative, and so we just want to thank them so you guys know how well he's done. So thank you, Mayor, Council.
Thank you very much. Next card, please.
The last card is Jan Rossi.
Again, I'd like to echo, I'm Jan Rossi. I live on River Edge Drive, and I would like to echo the sentiments of some of our residents. We rallied together when we heard that all the conditions were going to be removed, and we hit the bricks. So we were researching what was before, and thankfully Mr. Honeycutt did reach out, and we had a great meeting. He listened to me last night. I was wanting the stars and the moon and more preservation of the trees, but we were able to come to an amicable conclusion, and we are very, very happy about it.
And so were we.
Mm-hmm. Oh, one thing I do want to make sure is that this is set in stone, however it's said.
That was just addressed by Ms.
I want to make sure that 5 years, 10 years, if nothing happens, these conditions will go with it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Was that the last card, Clerk? Yes. Mr. Honeycutt, would you like to say anything at this point?
One more thing, and I meant to say that front. The reason we had a good meeting is everybody respected each other in the meeting. Well, there was nobody shouting and screaming. We started out the opposite ends, and we came together because everybody wanted to listen to each other.
That's
and
great.
I appreciate that.
Very good. Okay, I'm going to close the public hearing. Council, what's your pleasure?
I make a motion to approve rezoning number 2-2018 to remove the conditions applied by the CPA 2005-02E and rezoning number 3-2010 with the conditions as set out by Mr. Honeycutt.
I have a motion. I have Member Diesel got the race. Any further discussion? I have a Member Stokel. Do you still want to speak?
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you. You just made our job so much easier. Mr. Honeycutt, I can't thank you enough for what you do. And for you citizens, I wish all of our meetings and agenda items could be like that. I just want to say thank you so much.
Absolutely. Any other discussion? Seeing none. Roll call vote, please, clerk.
Mayor Johnson?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Behringer?
Yes.
Member Stokel?
Yes.
Member Diesel?
Yes.
Member Nelson?
Yes.
Passes unanimously. Congratulations, everybody. Next item is first reading ordinance.
Yes, our next item is ordinance's first reading, 10A, which is small-scale comprehensive plan amendment, number 1, 2018, for property located at 2586 and 2490 Dolphin Road. This includes two ordinances, ordinance number 21, 2018, and ordinance number 22, 2018, and I'll read both ordinances at this time. Ordinance number 21, 2018, an ordinance of the City of Titusville, Florida, amending the Code of Ordinances by amending ordinance number 60, 1988, which adopted the comprehensive plan of the City of Titusville by changing the land use designation on approximately 2.57 total acres of two properties located at 2486 and 2490 Dolphin Road, replacing the conservation and low-density residential future land use boundaries to the conservation and low-density residential future land use boundaries to match the boundaries of the surveyed wetlands and providing for an effective date. Ordinance number 22, 2018. An ordinance of the City of Titusville, Florida, amending ordinance number 5, 1993 of the City of Titusville, Florida by amending the zoning map made a part of said ordinance by reference by replacing the present open space and recreation OR and single-family medium-density R1B zoning boundaries to open space and recreation OR and single-family medium-density R1B zoning boundaries to match the boundaries of the surveyed wetlands on approximately 2.57 total acres of two properties located at 2486 and 2490 Dolphin Road and providing for an effective date.
This is your first reading, council, and Ms. Busak is available to answer any questions that you may have. No action required on council.
Any questions? All right, no need for any further discussion. Then go to old business.
We have one card, sir.
Oh, let me guess. Please read the card, please.
Stan Johnson?
Stan Johnson, 860 Poinsett Avenue. I'm here to address council for this, and especially I've talked to council before this, before we had change, is that what we have here is something that is a terrible thing that happened, and it's it's mentioned in here, Ordinance 5-1993, and that was when there was administrative rezoning of properties throughout the City of Titusville to OR, open recreation, and it was done in a way that had to do with the soils map, which was in completely has just many errors and so forth, and so it was done in a way that I've been told by some planners saying that was absolutely illegal, and so what we have here is in the narrative that has been submitted with this particular report, it states it's to amend the incorrect boundaries. And this is exactly what they're doing. And not only that, is in this particular one, is that Mr. Cunningham has commented. He said is that his comments are asking for refunding of fees, and I believe this is entirely appropriate for refunding the fees because the city shouldn't have done it like it did in the first place. It was, as far as I'm concerned, it was just a taking of property, and that's what it's described in here, is a taking of property, this OR zoning. So I am very much for this small-scale comprehensive plan amendment and the ordinance change and so forth. So that's what I wanted to share with you, and this is another example of the city zoning, administrative zoning just gone crazy. Thank you.
Thank you. That was the only card? Okay. We're on 11A, water right consumption adjustment.
Yes, sir. On 23 January 2018, staff presented an advisability to council to create a city policy to address instances of water and sewer bill in excess of normal usage, for which they were not readily available, the reason for the increased consumption. The city must comply with water and sewer revenue refunding bond covenants, which states that it will not render or cause to render any free services of any nature by its system, nor will any preferential rates be established for users of the same class. The recommended policy attached creates a policy that will adhere to the city's bond covenants and address instances where a customer has experienced a spike in their consumption. This policy requires a review of the incident by staff, completion of an application for the adjustment by the customer, as well as verification by a licensed plumber. After these conditions are met, a credit will be applied to the customer's account. This policy closely monitors a policy that's in effect in the City of Cocoa Utilities Department. And Mr. Bate and Mr. Stauffer are here to answer any questions that you may have about this agenda item.
Does council have any questions? I don't see any. Yes? Yeah. I'll go.
I just want to know if you had any information on how often we see an instance like this that happens where somebody may come that sees this big of a spike.
We have noticed about, out of 22,000 accounts, about 100 a month, but 90% of them are explained. Okay. So a really small, minute, I think it's 0.4%, even smaller than that. So it's a really nominal amount of unexplained high consumption.
Okay. And that's just with a certain spike, not necessarily hitting this 10,000, this big of a spike. It's just where it may be doubled or
that's
something.
Total,
okay,
yeah.
Just something abnormal.
Very few will hit that 10,000.
Okay, okay. That makes me feel a little bit better.
Any other questions? I see none. I'll open the public hearing. Are there any speakers by card?
I have 2 cards. The first one's Nadine.
Ma'am.
And then Stan Johnston.
Sorry, short. Good evening, Nadine DeFreitas, 4209 Grovewood Lane. First, I'd like to really thank the council for addressing this. And does this mean that you are implementing an adjustment?
We are implementing a procedure for adjustments.
Yes, okay, sorry, worded it incorrectly. I'd like to thank Mr. Barringer for letting us know that this was on the agenda. I have 2 things. First, I still believe that we are having spikes, and it's not the old meters, it's the new ones. It's the electronic ones that are occurring. There's actually a lady who's just posted on City of Titusville water bill issues again today that she had a huge spike. I just don't want you to please, that we've got to, this is helping us with when it occurs. We need to also please continue on to figure out what causes it, you know. And it may be that I may never ever have another spike like that again. Like Ms. Abede says, I still think that we need to look at actual data to see how often it's occurred, because it's still occurring and it's bad. But I also want to let you know that that I have continued to promote you as a council within our community, because I believe that everything I've heard tonight, that you guys have our best interest. And I want to let you know we appreciate it. And it really, it takes a lot of time to come here. I rushed up from my second job and left the kids on the field and said, don't get hurt, because I got to go to the meeting tonight. That's why I'm in shorts.
Please don't tell us things like that.
So, no, they're okay. They were just finishing practice. But again, thank you. Please don't give up what you were asking about. We need to actually have a data about that. Thanks again.
Thank you, ma'am. Next card, please.
Stan Johnston.
Stan Johnson, 860 Poinsettia Avenue. there's strange things about electronics. I was an electrician's mate in the Navy, and there's things you can go by influence. In other words, for example, is that somebody here in Titusville, I understand, invented something that he doesn't want to use, but what he can do is he can have a car driving down the road, and by golly, he can push a button, he can stop it. He can stop it by electronic, some kind of impulse, and by golly, he stops the car. So there's all kinds of things that can happen. In fact, is Tesla. Tesla, what he wanted to do is he wanted to run houses without any electrical wires, and he can do that. By golly, in fact is when I was a kid, what we would do is we'd take a fluorescent light bulb, and we would take it and get near an antenna, and by golly, it would glow, it would light up.
Sir, you're getting...
Oh, yes, I'm talking about meters.
Don't raise your voice to me.
Oh, boy. Well, take my time. Don't take my time, please. I'm trying to explain something to you. It's serious.
You go ahead.
All
Your
right.
time
All right.
stays.
Just let me speak. Okay, here's what's going on is that...
Stick to the subject.
Let me speak, please. Would you let me speak?
I am letting you speak. I'm telling you to stick to the subject.
This is the subject. These are
That's
electronic
the
meters, and
subject.
by golly, they can have faults. You can do things to them. So here's what I want to talk about, but especially what I want to talk about as a plumber, is that when we first have these meters, in fact, as we meters, it says that all you have to do is read the meter, and you can tell whether it's leaking or not. And that's true. So what I'm saying is that this is a good idea, but take the plumber out. Take the plumber out, the licensed plumber out, because it's easy. In fact, for the first 10 people, I'll offer my services free to go and read these people's meters to see whether it's leaking or not. It's a simple thing to do. You don't need a licensed plumber, because it's expensive to get a licensed plumber out there, and he charges so much money that it's not even worth it. It may not even be worth it. So I'm asking you to take this thing about the licensed plumber off. And I also mentioned about the possibility of you can have electronics go wrong, and even it happens at NASA too. Things wrong, and nobody knows what the heck's going on. And it's difficult to find out. In fact, there was one time I'd push on my clutch and my lights would go out. Strange things happen. So I would like you to take out this licensed plumber issue, because it doesn't fit easy with me, because it's so easy to determine whether it's leaking or not. They have just little tiny detectors in there that you can watch. Thank you.
Are there any other cards, Clerk? Yes. I'll close the public hearing. Council, what's your pleasure? Member Vice Mayor.
I would motion to approve the policy as presented by staff.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Discussion? Member Nelson.
Only that I would agree with. Only that I would agree with that. This is a start. This is a start. This is where we need to start. So I'm in agreement with it.
Okay. Vice Mayor.
Thank you, sir. And the council will bear with me just for a moment. I just want to take a moment and express how far and how many people have been working for years in order to get right here, right now, that it is government in order to ensure that you do things that function and are sustainable. Sometimes it takes time, and it has taken time to get here. But I want to commend, again, Mr. Stauffer and his efforts for the past, the work that was done prior to my time on council was the work that was done, and I'm appreciative. But at least for the time that I've been on council, consistently has tried to meet questions of the public and an education of the public about water, from meters to billing to now adjustment of policy, and the policy that I think empowers our staff to be able to have an option that can work for everybody involved. And I don't take that lightly. I can share with you as a council member This is, of the things I will look back and help to be a part of as a group of members, this is one of those that goes down in my books that goes, it got done, and that is absolutely awesome. So thanks for all the people that did the work on this, and thanks for council, which I hope would approve this policy. It means a tremendous lot to a lot of people.
I agree, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Member Diesel?
Similarly, with a few different names, for when I would sit out there and watch council meetings, water would come up. And when I got on council, it was water would come up. And I remember using the analogy of the, NFL instant replay, and we just seem to be doing the same thing over and over. Citizen comes with a complaint. We say, well, it's not leaking. They say, well, yes, and we don't know what to do. And I really think one of the first people I heard talk about this board and going to this was city manager. And I can tell you that I'm proud of this council as well, because this is a council that didn't really know. I didn't know exactly how to fix it, didn't know where to put my finger on it. But I will say staff and council and mayor, assistant city manager, if I didn't say that, Sean, just everybody was wanting to get a hold of this tail. And I really appreciate the heck out of that. And staff, I can't say enough about you. But again, we don't say enough sometimes, city manager and assistant city manager. And again, mayor has certainly helped lead the charge.
Thank you, sir. Okay, I think we're through with that item.
We'll need a motion on it, sir.
We didn't have a motion yet.
You need a vote.
Yeah, okay.
You need a vote.
We need a vote. Yes. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, like sign, passes unanimously. Yay. Item B, strategic plan.
Yes, sir. The city's annual strategic planning cycle began on 27 January 2018 with a council citizen community conversation facilitated by Ms. Marilyn Crotty of the Florida Institute of Government. This event was attended by several dozen citizens, provided council with input on a wide range of issues regarding the city growth and resource allocation. On 6 March 2018, council followed up with a community conversation event by conducting a council senior staff workshop. During this workshop, council was asked to revise and prioritize its existing strategic guidance to staff, consistent with the input provided during the earlier citizen workshop in January. Summary reports from both workshops are included in your packet. Based on the guidance received at the 1 March workshop, staff has prepared 3 versions of the FY19 City of Titusville Strategic Plan for Council's consideration. Staff is requesting Council finalize its FY19 Strategic Plan from the 3 versions presented for your consideration. The Assistant City Manager is here if you have any questions on this. This is trying to narrow the shot group a little bit to give us a little bit firmer guidance.
Anyone have any questions? Where do you start? I don't see any lights. Wait a minute. You want to speak?
Well, I'll go for a motion and slam dunk this one and call it a night.
We do have one card.
We have a card, too.
We have to go through
Thank you.
The motions here. Would you call the cards, please?
Stan Johnston.
Stan Johnson, 860 Poinsett Avenue. Last year I wasn't involved in this, but 2 years ago I believe is when I was involved in this the workshop, and the workshop is a good thing to happen, but sometimes it misses things. And in this case is that I believe it mentioned something that was seriously mentioned in January and February of this year, and that is that the city was talking about, the council members are talking about the possible bankruptcy. And so that's, it seems like it's an important issue that should be followed up on, including in this strategic plan, that when the council mentioned the word bankruptcy and they spoke about it for 27 minutes, that was not an agenda item. So that's one concern that I have. Another concern is that I have is that there's no mention of the deficiencies in the stormwater facility, although it's been brought up to council a number of times. And I also mentioned that there's not been ever $1 spent in the last 40 years for Okay, okay.
You don't stop for me, we're listening, Mike.
Okay, yes, sir, Mr. Diesel. Okay, is that, that regarding any there's been not $1 spent on any capital improvement that has taken any homes out of the 100-year flood zone. And that, and for example, maybe we've done some studies, but we've never done any improvements. So I think that's of a special concern. We've spent millions and millions of dollars on stormwater treatment, but not one penny has been spent on capital improvements for getting houses out of the flood zone. Thank you.
Any other cards? No. Okay. Second here. I'm lost again. We'll close the public hearing. Council, what's your pleasure? Wait, I have a Member Stokel. I'm sorry.
Yep, I just had a question for staff. I guess I'm leaning towards the version 3, but I'm seeing as it encompasses a lot more, I think, that we talked about. My only question, I think, is I think last year we had less objectives, and I'm a little concerned. Would version 3 be too many for us to focus on, or do you see any potential issues with that if we went ahead with that version?
Yes, ma'am. I think the more important question is version 3 didn't contain your consensus. So in the previous year, what we adopted was items that we at least had a 3-2 vote on.
Mm-hmm.
So that's version 1 is your 3-2.
Right, which I guess in my opinion, Council, it leaves out quite a bit. And another one, just when I'm looking at version 3, even though it does have a lot on there, one thing that I don't think I'm seeing on here is anything to do with safety. And I don't know if we wanted to add something on there regarding safety. Other than that, I mean, version 3 definitely is the one that has some of the issues that I personally brought up, and I think that we did have some agreement on. But the other two versions, to me, aren't even an option for me at this point, because I think it's just missing. I mean, we have nothing under economic development. In the second one, and the first one has nothing under economic development or efficient and effective services. So I'm looking more toward version 3. I'd like to see a component of safety on there, and then I may be okay with eliminating a couple if we needed to, but other than that, that's kind of where I'm leaning toward.
Member Nelson?
I'm in agreement with Member Stokel. I think that the number 3 version is more in line with what we wanted. I understand there wasn't a consensus and we were all over the board, but to me this is where we need to go. I don't know where you put safety, but I don't think we really need to delete any of the strategic goals. So where would you put safety?
Quality of life.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess with quality of life, and then maybe combining the enhanced educational opportunities for youth with the one right underneath it, enhanced youth recreation and employment opportunities, potentially combining those two and adding safety.
So combine goal 1 and goal 3?
Under quality of life, the goal 3 and goal 4.
Okay.
Because they're both youth related, and then adding safety there. And I think that I would be okay with those, unless anyone has anything that they're seeing on there or that they'd like to add or eliminate.
Okay.
Now you have had in your verbiage in previous strategic objectives safety in there, so we can regenerate that should that be your guidance to staff.
Okay, great.
I want to make sure that I understand. Which two are you talking about combining?
The enhanced educational opportunities for youth, and then the one right underneath it, enhance youth recreational and employment opportunities. On page 237 is the one I'm looking at, and it's under Goal 1, Quality of Life.
Okay. Okay.
So the third one and the fourth one.
Objectives 3 and 4
Yes.
under goal 1.
Okay.
We can do that. It's
Okay.
easy to just combine the two. So
Okay.
Member Diesel?
That could be pretty boring. I certainly see adding the safety part, but as city manager said, we can do that. I think we can all look at this over a lot and find something to add or take away, but overall, I think version 3 covers me pretty good. I could go with 3 right now.
All right. Vice Mayor?
I'm good with 3 as written, and I leave it to staff because I don't want to do semantics for the sake of, and to Member Stokel, the value that I personally have in seeing it delineated is that when we talk about educational opportunities for youth, that is a heavy, heavy lift in my mind, what that could mean. And I would hope that it not get buried, and I don't believe staff would intentionally try to do that.
Well, you notice that the objectives in bold are council priorities, so we would leave that one in bold, so that signals to staff that it's a council priority, so we had better address it in the budget.
And that's kind of where I'm going. So if by combining that would drop a priority or it would change anything, then I would not be okay with that, because I think that it is, again, the leveraging the partnerships in order to meet that, it's going to take leverage, I believe, as a count. You know what I mean? So in contrast to saying, how do we stand up some recreation that may be more, I don't know, but they're all heavy lifts. So I'm not excited about combining it, but if staff is going, it doesn't matter either way because we're going to do it all, then I'm good with doing it all either way.
Any further discussion?
I was going to make a motion.
Go right ahead.
I was going to make a motion to approve version 3, and with Sarah's suggestion of combining goal 3 and 4 and adding safety to goal 1.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? I see none. Let's do a roll call on this one too.
That's discussions.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't see you punch a button.
Yeah, I did not, sir. Thank you. But just my question to staff is does that provide the same level of clarity and not drop the priority of those as motioned?
Yeah, I think so. If it's on your chart, we're going to try to address them.
If it receives a consensus of council, then we'll keep it as a priority in bold, and we'll ensure that resources are allocated in the budget.
Awesome.
Any further discussion? If not, we'll do a roll call vote.
Vice Mayor Behringer?
Yes.
Member Stokel?
Yes.
Member Diesel?
Yes.
Member Nelson?
Yes.
Mayor Johnson?
Yes. Passes unanimously. Okay, we're down to 14A. You have my report.
Sir, I believe you got a petitions and requests.
Oh, sorry.
Yes, sir.
Petitions and requests. Is there anybody that wants to speak? I don't see anybody getting up, so I guess we'll just go on. We have, you have my report. Any reports from council members that would like to make?
I would like to, if you don't mind.
Yes, you go.
Member Diesel mentioned the Boys and Girls Club a few minutes ago.
I did.
And we are in negotiations or discussion with Northrop Our Charities to take over an old house and run a Boys and Girls Club out of the Carter House. So they will be voting on it tomorrow. I understand that it's probably going to pass. Boys and Girls Club seems to be happy with that idea. But we may have a problem with either the code or zoning, because the zoning allows for a civic center either on Park Avenue or on De Leon, and we are a half a block off of Park Avenue. So I'm hoping Ms. Bisaka has an idea.
The staff feels that community centers are probably very limited in our code and would be delighted given advisability to review those and come back with some recommendations so that community centers can actually be located in the community.
And we would love that. I would love that.
Does anyone have any issues with that? Looks like you can go forth.
Thank you, Ms. Basaka.
My pleasure.
And I will add that there is some discussion about creating a vocational center in town. There are some companies that want to do it with or without anybody's help. They believe that they have the wherewithal to do it. So they are, knock on wood, moving forward.
Great.
So,
Great. Vice Mayor, is this an
It
already?
is, sir.
When you want to speak? Or
I
it's-
do, sir, but
you go right
unrelated subject to Member Nelson.
Okay.
sorry, I beat you to it. I got excited.
No, I appreciate it. I'm excited too.
You're on.
Thank you. I offer this for council. I hope this is a win. So one of the strategic objectives that we adopted this past year on our goals was statistical poverty. One of the challenges of statistical poverty is that it is such a large issue, and I think Member Stokel's comment, it is abstract. There are concepts of it that are abstract. That sometimes just picking a number to say which one are you going to use to represent statistical poverty, and at the end of a few years, have you made a dent one way or the other, has, I think, proven to be a challenge. I would offer for council that we look or adopt the unemployment rate as a measure relative to poverty in our community. And I think that it ties to the goals of our economic development folks. I think that as a city, if we were saying, how are we doing relative to unemployment in our town, that it at least could give some kind of a precursor to the potential of poverty within our community. I think it's a number that is accessible and that it's something that you could use in order to base decisions off of. It's something that you can measure years out. It ain't going away. It's something that we get reports from. UCF does a great report on all statistics provided from their economic department. So it's one of those, I think that it's one of those numbers that we could hang our hat on to say at the end of 2 years, whatever we're trying to do in achievement to quality of life and, if not ending statistical poverty, measuring generational gaps of poverty, it's something that we could use as a barometer. So that would be my hope, is that we could hang our hat on a measurement of unemployment in regards to addressing statistical poverty.
I don't see anybody up there, but unemployment is a somewhat nebulous thing. Not everybody agrees on what is full unemployment and what isn't. I mean, some people tell you that 3% is full employment. I'd like to get some input from maybe our staff as to how accurate that is in reflecting anything, the accounting. Bridget.
Yes, sir. Currently, the accepted standard for full employment is 5%.
Yeah.
And the Titusville, Melbourne, and Palm Bay statistical latest report shows our unemployment below 4.
Yeah. It's a very flexible number, I'm afraid, and I hear that all the time on the financial channels. Plus, I mean, you've got to go an overall year because at Christmas time the unemployment is low and seasonal things affect it and so forth. So, can we get some input from Bridget as to the reliability of that number?
So that is the accepted standard, and we do gather the reports that show what our current unemployment are. We monitor that.
If that's the accepted standard, I'll go along with it.
Yes, sir, it
I
is.
just didn't realize that. I hear it, again, discussed how much, and there's a lot of arguments about exactly what is.
Yeah, it's 5%, sir.
Okay. Member Diesel.
And first of all, I appreciate Vice Mayor throwing out something that we can measure, and that's a hard thing.
Yes, it is.
And I can see that being at the top of the list, so let's do that and get a read and get an idea. And I think clearly City Manager does have a read and an idea. I think the thing with unemployment that would hit me would be that even in our own city, it would depend on where you're at. I mean, perhaps without getting real specific or something, but perhaps Laceda or Hickory Hill has one thing, and then across the tracks and on Sycamore, it's going to be a different thing. And I think that we can skew that where maybe it's only 4 or 5%, but maybe in some areas it's 12 or 13. I don't know that number. I'm just throwing that out there. So I think that the unemployment number could be tricky as far as we're trying to really see where everybody is in our community. However, I also can give you a tip of the hat to it's a number, and I don't know a better number. I don't know the answer to the question, but I think that that's my concern, that it varies so greatly from one segment of our community to another.
Member Nelson.
I look at it, and you're right, the employment number can vary from area to area. So for me, maybe a combination of your employment numbers and the number of kids that are getting free and reduced lunches, those kind of rates or numbers would mean more to me, because now we're not only looking at employment, but how many kids are under a certain level. And it wouldn't be a totally great number, because if you don't have kids, we don't have your statistics, but it is something that I would think of as a better measure.
Vice Mayor.
Thank you. Member Nelson, I can't agree with you more. Member Diesel, I can't agree with you more. I think that both points are spot on. I believe that using free and reduced lunch gives us both more data, and ultimately I go back to the idea of if you don't have enough money to meet the threshold to feed your kids, that's a tough spot to be in. You know, like that. And I think that that is a great number. I would welcome that. I think initially when we kind of went in this journey, that was one I threw out there. Couldn't get consensus on, which I'm okay. I'm at this point, if there's consensus on unemployment, we are further in ahead than we have gotten for the past year. If there's consensus on unemployment and free and reduced lunch as a combined, that I would walk out of here and do a backflip. And I mean that respectfully.
I remember you said that.
I will try. I think that it is spot on for what we could measure, and the depth of measurement. To Member Diesel's point, there may be pockets, and I believe that those pockets are going to reflect unequal values. So I would leave it up to the council at a later time to determine the scope of how much we really want to dive into it. But I think that step one is just saying, okay, we have consensus of we can move in a direction. Because right now I feel like we're respectfully kind of stalled on it, and I think it's going to die. I really do. And I hope that that is not the case. But if we can get consensus on, yes, to just say we will look at unemployment as something of value in really, because the economy, it's one that through trends. I know that in 2008 and 2009, as we were pushing through the layoffs, we were hanging 11%. So where there may be gaps and there may be fluctuations through the year, I look at a year rolling trend and then say, are we better than we were at 11%? Yeah, we're 3.5%, 4% somewhere about. So that's good. But I would welcome it if that's an amendment or in conjunction with it. I would love to add that if we can get consensus. If we can't get consensus, then I would hope we could just at least get a measure of something.
Member Stokel.
Okay, so I guess my question is, so if we were to get consensus on like these two measures, what would be your hope moving forward? Do you want us to be looking at this monthly, this rate? Do you want us to be looking at it yearly? And then when we are looking at it, if we're looking to see if it's going up or going down, do you want to see us move it into more of our goals that we set yearly? I guess that's kind of my question is, what kind of action steps are moving forward as a council collectively? Because I think that we all could agree these are important things that we need to discuss, but I'm just curious as to what can we do, or what are you looking for us to do as a council?
Mayor Matt?
Sure.
Okay. So my goal would be the following, was that once that's adopted, how we choose to use that number would be open to council debate. Theoretically, I would foresee us, as an example, using it in conjunction with our economic development, so that our economic development, when we justify why do we do this, because keeping in mind 10 years ago, there are a lot of cities that said that's not a government function, right? So one, I think it helps justify the rationale of why we're doing that. And I believe that the consequence or the roll-off from it compounds in the community. You got less people needing food assistance, housing assistance, and so forth and so on. So I think that a number like that could help us drive in economic development, and it could help us drive in our social services and our goals in that direction. So that's how I would use that basis. If, for instance, if we had a low, if we're at 3.5, maybe the need for additional services in the community are less, and that would be a policy that we could come up with. Or maybe when we say that, yes, our unemployment is currently at 11% year over year, that we as a council could say, we'll hang our hat on that, and maybe as a policy shift, we do need to invest more into the community to help people through a hard time. That's how I would envision using it. Currently, I don't believe that there is something that we as a city go, in 5 years from now, have we improved or lowered? And based off that improve and lower of that number, what are we going to do? And that to me would be critical.
Okay. Yep. Then, I definitely would be open to seeing these numbers and looking at them as a council. I think it aligns with what we already are trying to do with some of our goals. So just, I think, being more aware, which just sounds like what you're wanting. The more information I think we have, the better. So even if that was up to some of us to look at high school graduation rates or other things that we may want to bring to the table, I'm all for education and information to help us make better decisions for our citizens.
Member Nelson?
I was just going to suggest that if we're going to look at free and reduced lunches, that we do it by school, because you can pretty much draw an area circle around that school and you know what area you're looking at.
It's a very good idea.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
so
what I'm hearing is unemployment and the second numbers, right? I mean, is that what everybody's agreeing on?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not opposed to any of it. I would say that, unemployment, again, I talk about pockets. I'm not sure how totally accurate that is, depending on where you're walking the street. Free and reduced lunch, I heard it said earlier, that's true too. But that doesn't touch my grandma and grandpa at all. So, but I think they're both valid numbers, so I'm willing to go forward with that. And I don't know about you guys, but I kind of look at our Titusville's unemployment anyway. I'm sure you do. And so I do that anyway, and I happen to know free and reduced lunch, just like you guys probably do, but I think that wouldn't be bad if everybody's okay with it. And I don't think there's anything wrong with making those numbers known.
I'm happy with it.
I think I see a consensus. City Manager, are you? No, we don't have to vote on it. We have a consensus on it, right? Yeah. I'm just saying. Okay, go ahead. All right. Anything else from council? Not seeing anything. City Manager's report?
We have one card.
One card, sir, on Mayor's report.
Oh.
I put a card in for mayor and council because I'm not sure what you're going to discuss. Like, I didn't know that's what was going to be discussed. So I want to commend Mr. Diesel and Ms. Nelson for their what they're doing for the young people in our community. It's a very good thing on that. And I'm looking forward to I didn't know about this, but Mr. Behringer doing a backflip. I'm looking forward to that. I did want to comment on the that no one has commented about the report that I sent you on April the 9th, and not to go into it in depth, but Mr. Cook never received that until today, so he couldn't respond in your behalf. He never received it, so that's just an important thing to get by. And that Mr. Larice said apparently he represented you, but he didn't. He never received it. Thank you.
What Mr. Cook responded to Mr. Johnston about was his accusation that we weren't clearing the ditches, and that is also in the report that he has included tonight. So once again, we have responded continuously to the same accusations.
Your report, sir?
Yes, sir. I have one action item for council. We have requesting council approve a budget amendment of $1,995 to cover an additional costs incurred in repairing damage to our marina dock sustained during Hurricane Irma. Sufficient funds exist in the marina working capital account. Repairs have been recently completed, and the funding transfer will close out the project. We request council approve the attached budget amendment. Transfers $1,995 from the Marina Operating Supplies General Account to the Marina Dock Repairs Project.
Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? I hear none. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Yes. Passes unanimously.
Yes, sir. We have information items for you. One is the City of Satellite Beach Resolution number 998 and 1000. Supporting a statewide managed coastal retreat policy, and a reminder on events coming up. You've got the student awards ceremony at the Titusville Performing Arts Center on 2 May at 6 o'clock, and then the August we'll kick off our budget workshops. Subject to your questions, this completes my report. And we do have one card on my report.
Call the card, please.
Dan Johnston.
Stan Johnson, 860 Point 7th Avenue. Resolution number 998. I'm not sure how I'm trying to read it, and it talks about partisan primary elections. Do we have any in Titusville? Partisan primary elections? I don't think we do, so why would that would apply? Maybe I'm having my time. Can somebody respond to that?
Maybe that's why we didn't do anything with it, Sam.
Well, in other words, it's on there, but why would we be even considering? I don't think we have any partisan.
Sir, I can help council with this. Again, this item was under the information items from council. This was a letter addressed to Mayor Johnston from Satellite Beach.
It's just informational.
Okay. It doesn't apply to city. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Anything else, sir?
No, sir.
City Attorney, you have a report, sir?
Yes. We do have one card on the City Attorney's report.
Didn't have a report.
I think we have completed our tasks. I'm going to declare this meeting adjourned.